rather hand. It would have taught an effective lesson about stealing, with a lot of the elements from what John is witnessing being reincorporated into the design. No wonder it was used for the poster, despite not even actually happening within the movie's plot. The first trap to actually occur during the course of the story happens when John targets the first of the cancer treatment scammers. Diego was John's taxi driver who also moonlighted as a doctor doing the cancer treatment. In return for his hard work, John has plopped him in a warehouse with pipe bombs hooked to his forearms.
There's only 20 more minutes in this
He has
video.
only a couple minutes to cut the bombs out
I have
of his
like
arms before the time's up and get away from the
a
explosion
playlist of
before,
14
he dies
videos.
in it. And it's actually the first time in a while where a game player plays by the rules, passes of his own volition, and actually lives to tell the tale. It's quite refreshing. This trap is a pure delineation of John's philosophy, with a positive outcome even. Diego actually passes and survives. Heck, John even helps patch him up, while getting intel on everyone else, which allows him to set up an elaborate game that will take up the rest of the movie. Wait, what did John plan to do if Diego had died? Who knows? Moving on, I guess. John then rounds up the rest of the gang, which includes the ringleader, the daughter of the Norwegian scientist who allegedly pioneered the cancer treatment, a local junkie who pretended to be the facility's housekeeper, her supplier and local veterinary worker who moonlighted as one of the doctors, and a lady of the night who pretended to be a nurse. He also orchestrated the game in a way to lure one more player, the Norwegian chick's lover who pretended to be John's fellow patient. The first player up to bat is the sex-pay girl Valentina. She's been tied down with a wire saw prepared to slice right through her throat in approximately 3 minutes. In order to escape, she has to take a saw and cut across the dotted line on her thigh. Once she becomes legless, she has to extract 3 ounces of bone marrow from the stump with a suction tube. She almost gets it, by the way, falling about half an ounce short once time runs out. That right there is what pisses me off about this trap. Everything else works fine. The choice is completely up to Valentina to go through with everything, but the fact that there is an arbitrary measurement that she has to reach is bullcrap. This effectively creates a situation where Valentina does everything required of her, proving that she has the will to live, the main thing John is testing in his traps, by the way, but she can still fail because the flow of her marrow is too slow to get the amount of it she needs.
Is that even possible? Suck the bone marrow out of a living person? I mean, it gets very doable after you slow cook the bones for a while, but a living, I don't know.
You do it, but because the dryer cycle isn't quite done by the time she walks in the door, she disowns you and tosses you out into the streets. You did what was asked, but because something that wasn't really quite up to you caused the entire process to not quite wrap up in the time required, you're now deemed a horrible child. That's bullcrap. This trap is bullcrap. Game over. And you know what's funny? The next trap does almost the same exact thing. Mateo, the veterinary drug dealer, is strapped into a seat where he's forced to do brain surgery on himself. He has to remove a piece of his brain and place it in some liquid where it'll dissolve, releasing a key that he can use to free himself. All in under 3 minutes. If this doesn't happen in the time allotted, then a fiery mask will clamp down on his face, turning Mateo into Mo. Gonna give us some nice grilled Mexican tonight. Once again, this trap completely hinges on some arbitrary nonsense. Mateo does what's required of him to prove that he has the will to live, and because his own brain matter took too long to dissolve, he dies. That's not his fault. He did what you wanted, John, and he still died because your trap didn't work fast enough. I'm willing to take your word that one can remove a piece of his brain and survive. The brain is a fascinating piece of biological art, intricately stitched together in ways we silly humans can't even understand yet. I'm willing to believe that it'll fix itself up after losing a tiny piece of gray matter. What I won't buy is that this trap is at all fair or fitting with your philosophy, John. Well, at least the next trap redeems things a bit. Junkie Gabriella is suspended by a wrist and an ankle in front of a modified X-ray machine that will kill her with radiation unless she can break one of her limbs with a mallet to swing out of harm's way. John includes a bit of a cheeky twist where the machine will follow her when she breaks her ankle, forcing her to break her wrist as well. It's a bit overkill, but at least it doesn't make things unfair like the other 2 traps. Through her sheer will to live, Gabriella is able to pass the test. The choice is hers, so the trap will pass as well. The climax of these games gives us a very complicated bit of 4D chess from John that kind of feels a bit convoluted, but I'll do my best to break it down. So the final 2 players are the scam ringleader Cecilia and her lover Parker. Parker arrived after the game started upon receiving a phone call from Cecilia, which was secretly allowed by John. Parker pretends to be a fellow patient scammed by the treatment for most of his time there, but John still puts him to the test. All he has to do is sit and watch. His only rule is not to retrieve the gun he brought with him, which has been stowed away by a duffel bag that John claims holds the money he stole from Cecilia's fraudulent company. It seems like the initial plan for the final test is a platform that seesaws between the two people strapped down on either end, with whoever tilted down getting boarded with blood. I mean Kool-Aid. YouTube, this is Kool-Aid. In order to free that person from being boarded, their partner has to pull a lever that'll put them under the same torture. I guess this was designed for Cecilia and Parker to put their love or something to the test to see if it's just as fraudulent as the cancer treatment. However, Parker breaks the no-gun rule and frees Cecilia from the game. Cecilia decides to be extra dickish about it and puts John in the trap himself alongside a random Mexican kid who is outside that John had like one scene with prior to this. So while those two are doing the Kool-Aid seesaw, Cecilia and Parker go upstairs to retrieve the money they stole that John stole from them. However, this is revealed to be the actual trap, triggering a failsafe that frees John and the random Mexican boy and traps Cecilia and Parker in what was thought to be the safe room. The room starts to fill with gas that'll end up killing them, with their only form of salvation being a hole in the wall. However, the two must fight each other to survive. Cecilia ends up stabbing Parker and winning, but I'm not really sure if she'll be able to walk out of the room at some point or if she'll just eventually die sitting there. I mean, there's a 10-minute timer counting down, so maybe she'll be able to go free when it hits 0. Editing Spidgey here, I just discovered a deleted post-credit scene that confirms exactly that. Cecilia gets away, presumably to set up something that happens in the next movie next year. So back to the video, I guess. Now, with that incredibly complicated setup out of the way, I think this actually abides by Jigsawism. Really, Cecilia's only task was to let the games play out. If she did that, she'd be put in a pretty survivable trap that would let her go free. Instead, she chose to challenge John, and not only that, be needlessly cruel in how she did it. She unnecessarily targeted an innocent child to play John's game, even though John has definitely done the same thing before, but I guess everyone has forgotten about that. She also needlessly kills Gabriella after the junkie beat her own test. And if John had somehow predicted any of that, well, that's messed up, dude. As a consequence for her rule breaking and greed, Cecilia is punished with the gas. Meanwhile, Parker is simply tasked with being a spectator. He also receives specific warnings not to trust Cecilia, as she would stab him in the back to suit her own needs. However, he still chose to interfere and trust Cecilia, which eventually led to her betrayal. Even though it wasn't necessarily his choice to die, it was still Parker's choices that put him in that position to be killed. If he had played by the rules, this wouldn't have happened. Both players had full power to make decisions to win or lose the game, but the convoluted 4D chess nature of the whole thing did eventually lead to some unintentional suffering of innocents who had no choice in what happened to them. So that adds a bit of a black mark to the trap. However, seeing as how John didn't seem to account for this in his construction of the test, even though he claims to be an expert in human behavior, I guess I can excuse it when it comes to evaluation for the video. Because this test allows full choice of the actual players and allows their fates to be a direct consequence of their choices, the bloodboarding / gas chamber 4D chess trap lets us end the franchise on a high note with a passing grade. Okay, there's actually one more trap in the franchise that comes in a mid-credit scene. John targets Michael Beach's character because he had been paid to pretend to be cured by the scam cancer treatment and recommended it to unsuspecting victims. He gets strung up in the classic Saw bathroom with a machine on his stomach, which in theory is supposed to give him a similar wound to his fake scar. We never actually get to hear the rules or see the trap play out, so I can't actually say whether this follows John's philosophy or not. I guess we're ending things on a shoulder shrug, which seems fitting for the likes of the Saw franchise. The only notable bit about this trap is that we get a Hoffman cameo, where he delivers one of the goofiest lines in the series, and that's saying something.
I call that epic bad luck.
When I saw this in the theaters, I absolutely died laughing. So let's see how John Jigsaw fared. A lot better than I thought. By my count, there's about 20 good traps, providing a lot of simple and straightforward ones, but also a handful that add some clever twists and developments on the trap structure. However, that also leaves us with 33 traps in the Saw franchise that completely contradict the philosophy of the man designing them. John Jigsaw and his entire worldview makes him an interesting character for sure, but because he has such strong and rigid regulations and rules to what he does, it creates many objectively flawed traps, even the ones that I personally like. But hey, maybe that's the point. Maybe John Jigsaw was intentionally written to be this Ted Kaczynskian character who spouts mad rantings that have a kernel of truth within them just as this thin excuse to kill people. Or maybe it's just inconsistent writing. My money's on the latter, especially since these movies seem to think John's making a point. This starts in the first movie where Dr. Gordon makes sure to clarify that John Jigsaw doesn't technically kill people but lets them make the choice to kill themselves. This then becomes a thread throughout the movies where individual characters or even whole movies seem to endorse at least part of his philosophy. Heck, John even becomes an anti-hero in the new movie. There's really only one character to challenge the ideas behind the traps, but she's overshadowed in her 2 movie appearances by main trap plotlines where a life insurance provider with an unfair system and a saw trap grifter are taught lessons and punished for their sins. That's all well and good as a concept to explore some complex ideas about going through trials and tribulations to make you appreciate your life, but that cannot work if John is constantly violating his own philosophy. You can still make good and clever traps with those constraints, yet more often than not, this franchise chooses to ignore them, creating many flaws within the movies, on top of all the other goofy stuff this series does. I get it, these are meant to be silly gore fests with cool traps in them. It's not that deep. But I'd like to borrow a quote from a show I just watched called Heels. It's about wrestling, but I think it applies to this.
It's grown men in costumes pretending to hit each other. It's supposed to be fun.
Not at the expense of being good.
Even goofy, silly gore fests designed to appease the bloodthirsty mobs of gorehounds can still have good writing, or at the very least be consistent with their own rules. This consistency could allow for some clever exploration of the ideas that John Jigsaw espouses and use it to flesh out some interesting themes while also indulging in the over-the-top blood and guts that the core audience enjoys. There are actual interesting ideas that John has. Yes, he goes too far, what with the murder of it all, but there are seeds of truth within his insane ranting. We as people often don't appreciate the lives we live. We're too busy wallowing in our own self-pity, comparing our lives to others, wanting to tear down and sabotage those we envy, taking advantage of others to get ahead, destroying others for the sake of our own hypocritical self-righteousness, wasting hours of our lives on unproductive activities without working towards something more, etc., etc. There is purpose and meaning to our lives, but we tend to get too distracted by our own selfishness and self-indulgence to discover it. It shouldn't take such disastrous events like coming so close to death, poverty, or whatever rock bottom you can imagine to spark this realization, but it often does. If the traps were more properly written to encapsulate this idea, it would only strengthen John Jigsaw's guise as the embodiment of the extreme situations we encounter that force us to realize how precious our lives and the lives of others are. Would it not be cool if the Saw movies posed the task that John Jigsaw himself gives each of his players, when he actually decides to explain the rules to them, that is? Maybe there actually could have been a solid takeaway from this video instead of whatever this ended up being. But you know what? Maybe there is. Maybe John Jigsaw can teach us something. Are we going to appreciate the lives we live, finding purpose in it, devoting ourselves to helping others, seeking to better society, strengthening the bonds we hold with those we love, or even just putting a smile on someone's face with a really silly and pedantic YouTube video? Are we going to waste away, indulging in our selfish desires, developing apathy about the world around us, becoming nothing but self-serving individuals who harm ourselves and everyone else in our lives for the sake of our base instinctual whims? Are we truly going to live a fulfilling life worth living, or simply exist in this living death of emptiness? To put it more simply, and in a way to give the video a solid line to end on, live or die, the choice is yours. The movies are still bad though. Thanks for watching, stay blessed, happy spooky season to all of you. Stay safe with your trick-or-treating and whatever other traditions you guys follow. Especially stay away from those angry old men with terminal cancer and engineering degrees. I hear those can be quite dangerous. I'll see you next time.
Hi. Do you like Familiar Thing? Of course you do. Everyone likes Familiar Thing. Well, what if there was a movie where you saw a lot of Familiar Thing? Hey, it's that thing, and that thing, so many things. This is a good movie because I have seen so many familiar things. That's Ready Player One, directed by Steven Spielberg. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, they say. I wouldn't know, I only sniff glue. Looking back on the good old days isn't unique to any one time. But man, the 2010s just went overboard with the whole 80s nostalgia thing. For a few years, memories were marketable. Reboot, remake, remember this, remember that. It's something that was just so potent a decade ago. I love the 80s. Back when we could legally drink and drive.
Put in 11, 12 hours a day, and then get in your truck and at least drink 1 or 2 beers.
In my opinion, I think this whole phenomenon reached its zenith with one movie. One film that encapsulated this cultural rot. Ready Player One.
Mecha Godzilla!
The existence of this movie just fascinates me. It's something so of the 2010s. Like, after 2018, you just never heard about this thing again. I have never seen a Ready Player One fan online. Maybe they exist. I don't know. Nobody ever brings it up. Is this one of those things people enjoy in absolute shame? I want to know, because the song making fun of Ready Player One has more cultural impact than the actual movie.
Remember Tomb Raider.
Whitesnauser says,
Remember
my
Mm.
ranked matches got me sweating out my mind on
Spielberg
BDO.
film was kind of
Wait,
just
what is
swept away
BDO?
like an outdated Madden game. A disposable film. How
Like,
could
we
this
gotta
have
start from the
happened?
beginning.
It had all these recognizable IPs. It had the Iron Giant, Halo, Battletoads. How could something that had Tracer from Overwatch be forgotten by 2025? In the movie Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, the titular character, an eccentric visionary,
Whitesnauser
decides he will
says,
inherit his fortune
Black
in a
Desert
battle
Online.
royale where each child's sins
Played
become
that for
their
like a hot
undoing.
minute
Ready Player One
on
is
my
just
phone.
Willy Wonka, but
I got
in
nowhere
future. In the year
fast.
2045, the world
Alright,
sucks,
tell
and it ain't
me,
getting better.
please
People live in
explain
squalor,
how your ranked
and the only
matches
way
got
to
you
escape
Whitesnauser
sweating.
says,
lives is to
remember
put
the
on
game I
goggles
always stream.
and go into the virtual
Maybe I
world,
learned, like, maybe I
the
learned about it from
Oasis,
you then.
A metaverse, a universe where you can do anything and be anyone.
Maybe I'd
Everyone is obsessed
remember.
with it. It basically controls society, and now its creator, James Halliday, is dead. As his final act, he announces that his inheritance will be chosen by an Easter egg hunt. The person who finds all 3 keys and passes the challenges will inherit $500 billion and own the entire oasis. There are whole groups of Easter egg hunters called Gunters who scour for clues. There's an evil company called Amazon, Innovative Online Industries, or IOI, who wants to disable adblock and milk the oasis for all they can. And so far, nobody in 5 years has even found the first key. Not even IOI's thousands of employees. Everyone is just stupid. So that's the basics for the original 2010 book by Ernest Cline and the 2018 Spielberg movie. Same general plot structure, same characters. There is, however, one big difference between these two. Execution. The book is one of the worst things I've ever read in my life.
Whitesnauser
I'm
says,
sure there are worse
they got
books
this
out
new game
there.
mode where it's
The
ranked
rational
3
side
vs
of my
3 everyone
brain
with the same gear,
understands
no
that worse
advantages in
novels
GS.
do exist, but the rest of
Okay.
my brain just had to read a book which had quotes like this: Land of the Lost, Thundar the Barbarian, He-Man, Schoolhouse Rock.
So it's
G.I.
really
Joe,
up to your,
I
you know,
do
like
them all,
control of the
because knowing
character.
is half the battle. The term Reddit is thrown around a lot nowadays. This is Reddit, that is Reddit. It's a very versatile insult used by all sides of the political spectrum, used by any community. No matter who you are online, nobody wants to be accused of being a Redditor. Reddit is now just a catch-all term for a very specific form of lame, dorky, and nerdy. It's a term I've avoided using because it's an internet phrase and it'll just be outdated. So, trust me when I say this, because I don't use the term lightly. But this book is like the most Reddit thing ever, man. Oh
I've
my
never
God.
I've never
And
heard
it's a very
Reddit used as like
specific form
an
of Reddit,
adjective.
like an extinct version of Redditor that doesn't even exist anymore. I devoured each of what Halliday referred to as the Holy Trilogies.
Whitesnauser says,
Original and
yup, and
prequel
RNG
trilogies, in
teammates
that
on
order:
comms cause you
Lord of the
can't queue with
Rings,
your friends,
The
only
Matrix,
solo.
Mad Max, Back to the Future, and Indiana Jones. Halliday once said that he preferred to pretend the other Indiana Jones film from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull
That's
onward
sad.
didn't exist. I tended to agree.
Where's the
I also
teamwork?
absorbed the complete filmography of each of his favorite directors: Cameron, Gilliam, Jackson, Fincher, Kubrick, Lucas, Spielberg, Del Toro, Tarantino, and of course, Kevin Smith. The whole book is like that. You'd expect this to be an adventure about a kid finding the 3 keys and saving the digital chalk zone world, and it's like that 20% of the time, but 80% of the actual text is just the author, Ernest Cline, going on weird diatribes or listing off things he's a fan of. Sure, most of it's 80s references, but then they'll just have a random reference to Firefly, because no nerd in the late 2000s could shut up about Firefly.
I know what that is!
Wade is an overweight recluse who sucks with girls and avoids people in real life. But on the Oasis, he's a somebody. He's Parzival, a gunter. Knowing pop culture is a superpower. There's an entire chapter where Wade wins a pop culture debate against some other guy, like this was the Big Bang Theory, and he won it so hard that literally everyone clapped. Wade has the personality of a sheltered Gen X nerd, despite being born in the 2020s. He has all the same opinions too. All the same opinions. It only took 17
Dwight Snauzer
pages into
says,
the book for Klein
"It's
to
fun, but
mention
the
how life
ELOL
sucks
part
and
is
God
where
isn't
everyone
real."
lose their mind. I
Wade
love
has
it mainly
this
cause
whole
the
inner
infighting that
monologue
be
about
happening
how fat Leo
LMAO.
is great, and it makes you smarter. This type of person couldn't exist on the internet
Sounds
anymore. They all
chaotic.
got wiped out like the dinosaurs. Like, this is Will Wheaton as a book. Hell, Will Wheaton even narrates the audiobook. And in the lore of the book itself, he's voted as vice president of the Oasis. The funny thing, though, is that when you remove really most of the book, you have a mildly interesting idea. And that's what Warner Brothers saw when adapting this thing. Because they bought the film rights before the book even came out. There was a whole-ass bidding war for the film rights before Klein even completed the book. According to this Deadline article, Paramount, Fox, and Warner Brothers all fought over this movie, but Warner Brothers won. So, like, how? How did the guy who wrote the 33% on Rotten Tomatoes film Fanboys, a comedy about a bunch of nerds trying to break into Skywalker Ranch, end up becoming the belle of the ball for these studios? Well, all it takes is having a good idea. Or, well, you know, a profitable idea. Imagine a movie where the core theme is nostalgia and popular IPs. Even back in 2010, studios saw the money. In a way, the actual content and quality of the book never mattered that much. They picked up the rights a year before the book even came out. It's not like this was a New York Times bestseller, then a movie adaptation. This was a movie adaptation, then a New York Times bestseller. Which, it sure is a coincidence that happened. Sure was lucky this book, whose movie rights were bought by a major studio, just ended up being on the New York Times bestseller list. Worked out for everyone. On an unrelated note, did you know that the bestseller list isn't actually reflective of any real sales? It's actually an editorial recommendation list where books are chosen at whim. Make of that as you will. Yeah, it never really mattered how much Klein fumbled the story execution or ranted about jacking off. The concept alone was just so alluring to studios that it ended up becoming a movie directed by Steven Spielberg. Marvin the Martian. The fact this will always be in Spielberg's filmography is just hilarious. A movie with Claptrap stands alongside Jaws and Saving Private Ryan. Do you think Spielberg knows about Street Fighter? When the art department put these characters in and he saw the final product, do you think most of these just went over his head? As shameless as this movie is, being a vehicle for
Do you enjoy the suffering of others as they infight?
I don't think anyone could have pulled off this adaptation as well as Spielberg. Apparently, the studios wanted Josh Trank to originally direct. Like, Fan 4-stick Josh Trank. That would have been hilarious. Why didn't we get that one? They should have done that. Sub-Zero. Ready Player One is really two different films happening at the same time. On one hand, we have the live-action real world. It's like a traditional Spielberg film. These sections are very deliberate and readable. It has the energy of an older movie. The visual language is intentionally nostalgic. It's also helped that the score is done by Alan Silvestri, composer for all the Back to the Future movies, Forrest Gump, and The Croods. The score is intentionally cheesy and emotional at times, almost too much. Like by the end, it just swells so much I'm just thinking, alright, pull it back a bit. The other half of the movie is a Blur Studios cutscene. Oh my god. After suffering through the book, I actually liked the start of Ready Player One. Shows the dorkiness of everyone being obsessed with VR. I even thought, wait, why didn't I like this movie again? Oh.
Lex Luthor. Cool.
From a technical standpoint, the CGI is pretty impressive in 2025, but in that way, a video game commercial is impressive. And it's crazy to see characters in this movie look like Super Smash Bros. Will in 2013. Battletoads. That's really the most the Oasis scenes bring to the table. Like, if you wanted to see a photorealistic Iron Giant, then there you go. And hey, even on this last rewatch, I was not immune to seeing a CGI Gundam fighting Mechagodzilla. I thought that was pretty cool. I know, I fell for the propaganda. I recognized Familiar Thing, and I liked Familiar Thing. I'm a hypocrite. Look, I'm not above seeing recognizable thing and getting enjoyment out of that. I'd actually go against the grain here and say they should have had more recognizable characters in this movie, because the original ones they created look absolutely horrifying.
Stop staring at me with them
White Snozzer says.
The visual
Everyone
style
be
they
like
went
you're
with
a
for the
ELO
entire
terrorist and you
Oasis
should not
is
queue
just
when IQ reroll
baffling.
off your class
I
all
get
the
it's a video
toxic stuff
game
you can
and
imagine
it's
seeing in
obviously
any game
why the
LOL.
CGI looks the way it does, but did our main protagonists really need
Like
to
all
have
these
giant
chopes
bug eyes?
that I thought
Did
were
this need to be
extinct, you
Alita
can see
Battle
them alive
Angel?
and well
Look bad?
in
Or
Black
does one
Desert
part of this just
Online.
look so off-putting? How am I supposed to feel any emotional
Like a little time
attachment to these
capsule.
characters? How am I supposed to take anything
I
this
guess
guy
it's kind of
says
funny. I've
seriously?
never
The live-action segments
been
are ironically a reprieve from this
subjected
ugly VR world. How does the virtual world
to that kind
meant
of
to escape
environment.
the depressing reality look just as bland as Columbus, Ohio? This is the Oasis. People
But
can
then what's
go and
interesting
do
is that like the
anything.
only
And
multiplayer
what do we see
game
for the whole
I've
movie?
ever played
Inception,
ranked
New York City, a dark
was
club, The Shining,
fucking
a depressing
Paladins.
wasteland. And yeah, it's
And no
Planet
one
Doom
ever
from
did
Voltron.
voice chat
That
or
doesn't make
anything.
this battle look any less like a visual
There's rarely any
mess.
drama.
It's all technically impressive. I'm sure a lot of artists worked on this, but like, what's the point if it's all a blur of grays and blues? The original characters look bad, the environments look bad, and the only interesting thing we get are the characters from things we actually like. Kinda seems like the point of this 80s stuff is that it's just a cover for a dying society. In the book, the 80s stuff is just because the author likes the 80s.
Remember Akira? That's from Japan. Remember Galaga and Mrs. Pac-Man?
Like, Klein has Wade drive a DeLorean with Ghostbuster decals on the doors and installs an
White
AI
Snozzer
kit
says.
from Knight Rider.
No ever
And
VC
it's
on
not
that game
played up
ever.
like a joke. It's meant to be cool. He literally owns this exact DeLorean.
But on
in
Black Desert
real
Online
life.
or
So the movie
Paladins?
does the 80s stuff a lot better by just having less 80s stuff.
White
It had to
Snozzer
appeal
says.
to more than just man
Paladins was a
children
good
Gen
game.
Xers. It appeals
Is it
to
dead
man children
now?
from every decade.
I was.
90s, 2000s, even the 2010s. All still equally as shameless.
James Halliday's favorite first-person shooter. What?
Oh, GoldenEye.
I really want to know how this movie will be viewed in the actual year of 2045.
White Snozzer
It's
says.
not that far in the
Paladin.
future, it's only like 20 years.
Mm.
That's the same span of time from here to 2005. I'm sure most of these things will still be recognized, but that broad generational connection to them just won't be there. I know what a Battletoad is, but someone watching this in the 2040s will just be like, what's that humanoid frog thing? Who will be remembered and who won't be, I can't really predict. All I can say though is that this movie
It's like
is
the
going to
only
be very
MOBA,
baffling to people in 20 years
if that's
because
the
nobody
proper
will
classification
remember
for it,
Forza
ever really
Horizon
enjoyed.
launch.
Cheers, love.
Like, if I were
White
to
Snozzer
play
says,
something like that,
sadly not as popular anymore like
It's
Smite.
so distracting.
are you saying Smite
It's
is
a
also
constant
not
reminder
popular
this was made
anymore,
in
or Smite is like
2018. In 2 decades,
something
people are just gonna be
comparable
like,
that is
"Who the
still
fuck is
popular?
this? Why do they
Like,
keep
I'm
showing
never
this
gonna play
girl? Is she
Overwatch.
an
I'm never gonna
original
pay for a
character?"
game.
No. This was just a big game in 2018.
Paladins was my
Blizzard
only
dropped
experience
the
with
ball
that kind
so
of
hard,
genre,
it's now
and I
the most
enjoyed it. I
poorly
liked
aged
it.
inclusion in a
Mostly,
movie
I
that
enjoyed
has TJ Miller as comic
understanding,
relief.
and I enjoyed like finally getting some kind of mastery over it. Not that I was ever good, but
To be fair though, at least I remembered Tracer
it was
was
fun.
even in this. Did you know a Battleborn character was in the background? Remember Battleborn? Anyway, everyone is stupid in this world. In the book, it at least makes sense why it's been years and nobody
White
has
Snozzer
ever
says,
found the first key.
Smite died
Nobody
too
even
young.
knows where to start. In the movie,
Dang.
the first key is locked behind this race.
Is Overwatch
and
the only
anyone who
survivor?
wins the key. Nobody has won the race in 5 years. They keep getting smashed by King Kong. So what could the solution possibly be? Just go backwards. Yeah, in the movie, Wade gets the first key because he was the first one to go backwards. In our world where speedrunners break games just for a 10-second time save, nobody broke this game with a half
White Snozzer
trillion
says,
on the line.
MOBAs are fun
Spawn,
especially
if
with
this
friends.
contest was real, gamers would have cracked
Yeah,
this egg
man.
hunt in
I
under
remember
a
I
week.
used to have a
Hell, someone
friend
would have gotten the
in like
first key in the
junior
same
high
hour Halliday
who I would play
died.
Paladins
Going
with.
backwards is the first
He
thing anyone
fucking
would have
would
done,
beat me
even
the
if
fuck
by
up.
accident.
He would do
Now, to be fair, I
the
saw someone
crocodile
on
guy
Player
with like
One subreddit, the only place I
the
actually
rocket
see people
launchers.
discuss this thing, theorize that maybe somebody needed
And
to
just
see
come on
Halliday's
me.
old memories and figure it out in front of the butler, because the butler is Simon Pegg, don't worry about it, and then Simon Pegg would activate the trap door to go backwards. I think that's giving the movie way more credit than it intended. If the movie really wanted the audience to know this very clever thing, then maybe Simon Pegg would have told Wade that that's how the first key worked at the end of the movie. I just don't see Klein and the writer of Free Guy recognizing that this whole backwards thing is really dumb, and they intended for the butler noticing to be the way that the first key actually worked. I think if that's what they actually intended, they would have just told the audience, because they want the audience to think the movie's more clever than it actually is. From what we're given in the actual movie, though, Wade was just the first guy to go in reverse. Not even the big bad Amazon company with their infinite resources has ever tried to go backwards at all. And this is a company that can dox people and bomb their house. Yeah, Wade gets doxxed. Director Krennic finds out where he lives, and after Wade turns down their offer to find the egg, they just blow up his trailer. This scene is really all you need to know about just how different the book and movie are. In the movie, Wade reacts like, holy shit, things are real. He panics. He calls up the trailer, sprints to the stacks to warn people about the bombs. But it's too late. His aunt and her boyfriend are dead, alongside like 30 other people. He wants vengeance. In the book, Wade does not give a shit. They blow up the stacks, and it's just waved away by Wade himself. He hates his aunt and boyfriend. He kind of seems glad they're dead. And it's kind of more fucked up, because in the books, full families live around their trailer. Like, actual children die in this because of Wade's actions, and he never remarks on this at all. Wade is more sad about fumbling his internet girlfriend than the death of 30 people. Chestburster. Yeah, IOI are not playing around. There's a lot on the line here after all. The entire fortune of Halliday, plus ownership of the
Are there any
Oasis.
like games
And if
like in that
IOI
same
takes over,
vein
they're going to
these
flood the
days?
entire thing with ads. Milk the
I don't know,
Oasis
I'm
for all the money
thinking,
they can
like,
make.
our
You know,
creators,
however,
people are
the
saying good
Oasis
things
makes
about
money,
it, but I've
considering
never
it's
been into
essentially
extraction
free to play,
shooters.
but
I wish it
somehow
was more
Halliday made
PvE.
billions.
Like, I feel like it would be absolutely fascinating to play a game where it's like, can the human players
This is an absolute wild west of digital
keep up
space, and the corporations
against
are
the
trying to take it
AI
over and commercialize it. The world in
AI
lore is
enemies
written in the
that are like
way
learning
it
in real
is,
time?
because
That's
this
like
is
seems like a
fundamentally
fascinating
a
premise.
plucky underdog story, a David versus Goliath situation.
I know
where
there's like
the
a bit of
gamers
that
have to
factor, but
fight
I
to
want
protect the
full
internet from
on
the big bad corporation. The story only
PvE
works
type.
if everyone is fighting over something incredibly valuable. something that IOI would
Like Hell
pay for.
Riders mixed with
This
Arc
also
Raiders is
only
what I would
works if
like.
Halliday is the one who personally offers up the reward himself. It's a simple, fun concept that you just forget about after watching the movie. You just saw Chucky stab a guy. You didn't think about the plot.
Fucking Chucky. What the hell?
But then while I was writing this, I started thinking about it. And I kept thinking. And I kept thinking even more. So like, the Oasis is basically free to play. Or, well, it only costs $0.25 to start an account. There are no visible ads anywhere. So how did Halliday become the richest man on Earth? Like really, $500 billion is Elon Musk's size. It's almost double the net worth of Jeff Bezos. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Except, it does. Halliday probably got a lot of his wealth through the stock of his company, Gregarious Simulation Systems, or GSS. And GSS is wealthy because of the Oasis. By the time of 2045, the Oasis has existed for decades. Funnily enough, it actually formed this month.
December 2nd, 2025.
It isn't just artificially pumping up GSS's stock like Nvidia. This is a real operation creating a profit for shareholders that keeps getting bigger. So the real question here is, how does the Oasis make money? This is a virtual world, and a virtual world is such a good idea that of course it would be profitable. But how? The metaverse tried the exact same thing and that failed. There has to be a reason why Halliday's fortune is as big as it is. It's the coin. You can buy anything with coins. Virtual gear, cosmetics, weapons, and even real items.
Oh, yeah.
So stick with me here. There's a scene in the movie where Wade's aunt's boyfriend gets pissed because he zeroed out. In the Oasis, a character can die and respawn, but they'll basically be a new character, like a roguelike. He's mad because he spent real money on virtual upgrades and gear just to lose it all.
That artifact was gonna pay for the house.
Wait, how much of our house money did you spend on upgrades?
Well, all of it.
So we know that real money is going into the Oasis every day and being transferred into coins. A movie from 2018 might have a scene like this and it's just people spending their money on video game coins, but someone from 2025 would look at this and go, oh shit, this is just crypto. Because not only can you buy virtual gear with the coins, you can buy real items too.
Oh, yeah.
But even then, just because something's digital, it doesn't mean it's not as valuable. There's an entire underground black market for just Counter-Strike skins. Real money being made on virtual stuff. Real lives being ruined by people spending actual money on digital stuff they might not even get. Oh shit, this is just online gambling. In the story of Ready Player One, James Halliday is this Willy Wonka figure. His biggest flaw is that he's too obsessed with pop culture and never really lived a real life. He's kind of the emotional core to the film, where the entire Easter egg hunt is just him expressing his greatest regret, where he never told his crush how he really felt.
She wanted to go dancing, so we watched a movie.
But if you wanted to be a little asshole and overly dissect the story like I am, you could say James Halliday is not a good guy at all. In fact, the game he and Simon Pegg invented is kind of evil.
Take it out of here!
In 2010 terms, Halliday made a very cool MMO. In 2025 terms, Halliday and GSS created a microtransaction free-to-play game that runs its own crypto economy and constantly enables online gambling. We can go even deeper. So the characters can just die and lose everything, right? That's established. Really, that was just a way for the story to have any stakes because if someone respawned, none of this would matter. But man, the real-world implications of this would be horrific. We're showing people spend their whole lives in this digital world. Hell, TJ Miller's character has a decade in this game. Now, imagine spending real-world money on this massive collection. Your character is your literal identity, something you attach your worth to, and then you just die. How many people off themselves in this world? I bet TJ Miller did. How many people are psychologically destroyed every day by the gameplay loop?
It's interesting when I read a manhwa where it's a game instead of they get isekai'd.
crisis was what
I
facilitated
really
the
get
creation
a little less
of
interested.
IOI. Which, hey, to be fair, it's pretty clear GSS and Halliday didn't like IOI at all. But at the same time, they didn't ban them or anything.
I always prefer when it's real life stakes. But for example, I'm reading this one manhwa. It's called
Snozzer says, LOL.
And
I don't know,
nobody
it's-
acted when IOI literally started
It could be
enslaving
fun,
people and using
but
them for
the fun
manual
ones
labor
are,
in
for
a
example,
digital world.
there's. I was gonna talk about the Slumbering Ranker, which is about this one guy who he plays this VR MMO, but he plays it because there's a time sync difference between the game world and the real world. So he can sleep for about like 20 hours. Like, not even that's a bit unrealistic. But the point is, it's like about a 5-time difference between real life and game time. So he can quote unquote sleep for longer.
Was Halliday complicit? Did he just not care?
And
so yeah, that's kind of funny. Halliday made
in all ways, it makes no sense. But that's the premise, alright? So the premise is that he sleeps in this game for 10,000 hours, and he unlocks a hidden class called, like, Progeny of Thanatos.
So, to sum it all up, James Halliday got rich off VR chat that was
this game is, like, ruled by its AI. And in this case, AI not being our, our puny AI, it's fictional AI. And not even the game devs can really take control of it. So they start following him and are like, what the fuck is he gonna do to the game plot? And they have to start worrying about how his character might impact the world economy, like the game world politics. Because as soon as his class was unlocked, new world building started appearing, new monsters started appearing. It's like this divine class character that it had to be created for the sake of the lore, but they never expected anyone to actually unlock it. So there's like a bit of intrigue.
Man, the point of the Iron Giant was that he didn't want to be a weapon.
There's like a bit of, what's going on with this game AI, there's a bit of mystery.
That's wild, like what 10 HRS of sleeping and getting a new class.
No, 10,000.
I don't see the Iron Giant anymore, or any of these characters. I just see Fortnite
10,000. He's been playing for like a year.
Just like how Batman wouldn't,
quote unquote, because he was working, a typical office job, and he had to take care of his disabled sister. Of course, we got a disabled sister trope in a manhwa. So he only had like about 5 hours to sleep a night. So he got this VR pod so he could go in game and sleep for like 10 plus hours a night. Or I guess he would game for a little. Let's assume that he would actually I don't know. I think he couldn't game anything, because by the time that the actual plot started, he was still in the starting town. So we can legitimately say he did absolutely no gaming. Thank you for the follow, but it's just a scammer.
Fuck.
I'm a huge Little Nightmares fan. My YouTube banner is full of Little Nightmares gnomes doing various antics. I've played 1 and its DLC a handful of times, and I've got over 300 hours in Little Nightmares 2 from doing speedruns and looking at the beautifully crafted game.
How sad.
I still listen to Prison Toys and the LN1 DLC credits song, and so much of the soundtrack is amazing. Obviously, I like 2 best and consider it a huge step up from 1 in terms of mechanics, puzzles, boss enemy variety, and how memorable they were. 2 even improved on the movement of the game. To me, the series went from good to great, and the hope of an eventual DLC or sequel was thrilling. There were doubts when Tarsier Studios lost the rights to the series,
querrieoh
but I was
says,
still hyped to see Supermassive picking up the reins. The trailer had some red flags, with the game looking suspiciously like LN2 with a new coat of paint, and umbrellas being the only noticeable new mechanic. And don't say Lowe's bow is a new mechanic, we'll talk about that later. But I looked past everything questionable because it honestly didn't need a bunch of new mechanics to be great. Anything on par with 2 would make me happy. During LN3's year-long delay, however, the original creators, Tarsier Studios, announced Reanimal, which
Patrick
did
says,
look like the next evolution
YouTube chat
of Little
check.
Nightmares on the same level as the jump from 1 to 2, reminding me that there was no reason LN3 couldn't also be showing something new. I ignored any bad vibes though and simply got my hopes real high that LN3 would be amazing and capture the same atmosphere and feeling as 1 and 2. So high that when they came crashing down as I played it and later reflected on the game, I decided to make this critique video. This isn't what I normally do. I usually just don't make videos on games if I didn't enjoy them. But not this time. 4 years later, I'm pissed off that I was excited for more. Little Nightmares 3 spends its 5-hour runtime reusing the least interesting mechanics of 2, moving between bad guys far less compelling than even 1, filling empty space with puzzles that can only be called puzzles because I think that's what they were going for, all with a horrible single-player experience, and a focus on co-op that can't even be played locally sitting together on the couch. All that for the low price of 56 Canadian dollars before the additional $15 of really ugly cosmetics and a $20 DLC that isn't out yet. My disappointment is immeasurable, and I spent my whole playthrough plus redoing chapter 3 when our save broke, hoping that it wasn't that bad. Something that only worked because I love playing anything with John. But now I've come to the conclusion that it is really bad. I've spent the last few days getting progressively more upset, and now I'll be taking you through every category that I have complaints about, of which there are many. You won't hear me complain about the visuals or the story much. Truth is, the game works amazingly as a poster, and has endless compelling snapshots. If only it was fun, too. As for the story, it's vague with a base narrative you can follow and a twist at the end. I know it links to, I think, a podcast or maybe a comic, but I don't care. It needs to stand on its own. And while it does do okay story-wise, it definitely is the weakest of the games, particularly with the lead-up to the ending and the ending itself, where the others are brain-melting bangers. Now let's dive into my biggest gaming disappointment probably ever. I don't usually anticipate games or let myself get too excited about them, but I did for this game, and it was a mistake. The price. We gotta start here because it ties into other points as we go. 40 USD for a 5-hour game is something people generally don't like, but I actually don't mind. You probably shouldn't listen to me on this though, because I make money streaming games and would pay a lot more if I had to, because they're an essential investment for me to make a living. But for what it's worth, I made basically no money off LN2, but happily paid the 30 USD for that also 5-hour game because it was a great.
It looks kind of like a superhero for some
people's
reason.
Price complaints should stem from the game being ass. I don't agree with saying you need a certain amount of playtime hours to justify a price. That being said, why the hell is there a $15 DLC of cosmetics that are exclusively less appealing to use than the base look of the 2 characters? They should have forced you to play as one of these ugly things and sold the base skins. Not to mention that most of these aren't even new characters, just you can look like an ugly thing from the previous games. Dark 6 for $4 is okay, but still, I'm good. As for being able to buy the expansion pass now, whatever, man. I'm over 80 Canadian dollars into my 5-hour game. At least in 6 months, I'll get to play more of it and pretend that it's free. Bosses. All 4 disappointments. The bad guys or bosses of Little Nightmares I don't think were the highlight of the game until the second one, which did such an insanely good job with them that it became a mandatory expectation for any sequel to live up to. The aggressive hunter relentlessly chasing the duo, the teacher sternly demanding the attention of her students with her owl neck, and actual teacher feel with the piano, and creating probably the most iconic chase in the series. Doctor with his freaky sounds and shocking end, and finishing up with 2 bosses that tied into the crazy plot twists of the ending. LN3 has, the baby? It made for a good diorama to go with my superior hunter one, but very quickly she loses the impact she could have had. She's just hanging out, and you're in her way. And she's got Medusa's curse, I guess. Beyond stone time, you're not in any danger. She just follows movements. Less little nightmares, more like Ladybug near a toddler simulator. Also, when she catches and drops you, the game entirely loses the color palette that I really expected and was excited for the game to maintain. With the two previous games mostly sticking to a consistent feel with smooth transitions when it did change. From this point on, the game also gets really dark, even at max brightness. It never goes back to the sandy look the trailers presented, it's just forever dark now. Anyway, the climax of the baby chapter is this.
Do I need to bow and arrow this?
Don't look behind.
Oh.
What's she doing?
Does she got a sneeze?
I don't know.
That's another thing I've learned. Sometimes you just gotta wait. Sometimes you don't need to do anything.
The birds.
Oh, it's
the birds
all
got her.
Interesting. Something's protecting us.
Yeah. Very hard hitting. Definitely not a step down from literally every other encounter in the entire series. Chapter 2's boss is an obvious attempt to reinvent the teacher wheel without anything that made the teacher work. These games don't give you boss names, but every single person who played Little Nightmares 2 came up with the same name for bosses. The hunter has a gun, traps, and pellets. The teacher has a ruler. The doctor, patience. Back to the teacher, she had a classroom, students, piano, books. LN3's teacher ripoff has papers. A lot of papers. She's an accountant, secretary, bureaucrat. You go through her offices and wait for her to walk to the next room. We died a lot here because we actually thought we had to do something, when the solution is just to hold crouch and wait for her to finish doing nothing. Basically, same thing here too. Then you go over top of her. Wow, this reminds me of another game I played. Except she can't actually reach you, and after you mess with her cameras, she gets mildly upset and goes final form. And it's incredibly obvious what's gonna happen next. I call it out. We're definitely killing this one, guaranteed.
Oh yeah.
How do you kill a spider? You squish it. She's getting squished. One uninteresting chase later. Yep. Thank God for this convenient hydraulic press that is here to squish the accountant. And doesn't make any sense that it's in this storage room. Poppy 4 actually did it better. And don't even get me started.
I guess the neck should be thinner.
Chapter 3 is like 40%
That's what
of
I'm
the game.
feeling.
And its first half is just honest to God 45 minutes of nothing. No danger, no
emotes only on cake because I got too many scammers.
To the bug one in
I
the
could turn it
chapter,
off.
and then another half hour
Possibly.
of at least visually appealing chapter before the third boss, who is alright. Bon, go get him. He at least has some gameplay with you needing to distract him. Exactly how
Querrieoh
you do the
says,
LN2 doctor
"Hey."
and the LN1 janitor. And one unique moment where you get lowered by a rope to grab a key while he's distracted. That was a fun 20 seconds. Those 20 seconds were a highlight for me. Mind you, he also catches you, puts you in cages, and then our save broke, and we had to redo the entire shit-ass Chapter 3 with no way of fixing our save, but that's a complaint for a later section.
There's lots of
He's
places
okay, and
that
his
need
send-off is the best in
refining.
the game, but that's not saying much. We land at the mansion, which is the least visually appealing chapter, and the final boss has one good moment where you first hit the gong and the snake slides through the hallway, only for you to realize it's a foot. Then there's some lore stuff, one moment in his chase that seems like he's actually trying to catch you, and you have a final boss battle that so dramatically
I forgot that someone asked me to draw Ayn Rand.
single way. The only thing that stops you from first trying is the fact that
try and do
random
that tomorrow.
debris falls on you. So it's nothing but a matter of learning 4 debris fall spots.
The only thing I know about Ayn Rand is that the
Characters have that
Bioshock world
everything in this snooze fest.
has some
Something
motivations
with the wrench,
based on her.
and Lowe shoots it. Remember
I
this?
should
The lady who
probably
can't handle
research,
mirrors can't break this last one, and you
aka
slowly destroy her
find a
with her
video essay on.
reflection. Remember this? 6 has been twisted into a huge beast, and you use portals to distract her out of the way of her music box so you can destroy the obsession that's mangled her body. This time you get this uninteresting Geo dude, and he squishes himself with the walls. after Alone hits something and Low shoots. Low shoots and Alone hits something. Alone hits something and Low shoots. This is all you really do in the game. Personal equipment. At first it was exciting. Giving the characters each a tool opened the door to greater gameplay variety. Just think of the new things the game could do with this expanded moveset. Except there are no new things. There already were wrenches built into the environment for you to problem solve little challenges, and they felt like Mono was using the world around him to get through the harsh world. The constant wrench just reduces the amount you interact with the levels. And the wrench only does something when it's needed. I tried hitting a ton of things that really should have reacted and could have given a purpose to always having a wrench if it meant you could interact with the world more, but there's so little. Instead, the wrench just becomes Alone's really boring half of puzzles and progression. Alone
I can tell if the wobbliness is my tablet settings or just a bad
in
tablet.
the same way previous games used throwing to interact with the environment. It's just useless. Low has a bow.
Or maybe I really am wobbly-handed.
There's no aiming, you just walk up and wait for the prompt that you can shoot, then you shoot. Low can interact with the world a little more because there's some bottles and balloons that are out of reach for the wrench, but nothing besides sometimes breaking things. The bow never matters except when you need to do something that a sharp rock or spear-shaped stick on the ground is also capable of doing. Except now there's no gameplay from the drive to find that sharp rock. You've got a bow. Low shoots the bow, Alone hits with the wrench, and you wait for bosses
White
to open
Snozzer
doors
says,
for you. That's how
I have
the
not
game
picked up my
plays
Wacom
out.
in a bit.
Mechanics. There are
You
no
have a
new mechanics,
Wacom,
little nightmares.
and you haven't picked
Just
it up.
kidding, there's the umbrella. It slows your
I
fall.
got my second-hand
Use it halfway through
Hue
chapter
on.
1. But there are plenty of mechanics from
Weon?
previous games that were removed. Swinging on ropes was made for
Weon?
some really cool moments. You can just barely
Wee
swing
wee
in a
wee.
couple spots in the third game, but you can't. Traps? Like the bad guys here wouldn't have any snares at any point for our little dudes? They locked Low in a cell, but there's nothing like the hunter's
Oh,
traps
no.
or the school kids'
Use
prank
the other.
buckets. Nothing? Unscripted encounters. This is huge! In LN3, if you get seen, you die. Period. There is no escaping anything at any point once you're detected. There's only one way to handle every single encounter. Nothing like the cool stealth in LN1 where you hide under counters to avoid deaths, or mannequins in LN2 where your flashlight dictates when they can move, or dodging behind rocks with the hunter. Nothing like that. Every single encounter has one solution, which is generally hold crouch and wait for the bad guy to go away. Fighting things? There are 2 small fights with minor enemies, but they're identical with no variety. 4 enemies spawn, 1 at a time, in the same spots, and you'll never guess, but Low shoots, then Alone hits them with the wrench. That leaves no room for variety. And I don't know if this is a mechanic, but the little gates and 2-handed doors are frustratingly overused in this game.
Help me. Oh, I thought that was me. I was all the way on the left because I was tugging. Okay, that sounded really bad.
It's okay, Sean. If you need a tug break, just let me know. It's only been 2 hours, but I get it. These first popped up in LN2, obviously, with now 2 characters, but each of the few times they're used, it's super impactful, well placed, and are largely 6 in mono working together to move through other people's space. So much of what makes traversal uncomfortable for the characters is that they're moving through buildings that aren't made with their little bodies in mind. And if there isn't a gap for them to squeeze through, they gotta get creative. LN3 gives the impression that every building's architect knew that 2 little guys needed to move around as well. So they installed doors for them in every single room. The first time you see this animation of them pulling open a vent before pulling the other through, it's sick. It's a great animation. And then you do it probably 40 more times. And the game turns a little great thing into a boring, repetitive thing. A couple times you do this interesting zipline to cross spaces, but why do they perfectly slow down at the end? It's still sloped. Does Low's bow come with brakes? Imagine if they zoomed uncontrollably down the zipline and bounced off the wall because they're moving through someone else's world using whatever they can. That would be so much better. Instead, the zipline again feels like it's designed for them to safely move around. LN3 fails to place you in a world where you don't belong. You can navigate just fine within it, and it honestly feels catered to little beings. Level transitions. This is a short section. They suck and don't really exist. In LN2, you shoot the hunter and your ears are ringing as you stumble away from the chaos you created and drift across the water on a door to a new land. Or even better, shift space to pull the tower that you've been watching all chapter towards you before running in. Beautiful level transitions. In LN3, you enter a mirror and teleport to who knows where. You do this twice, from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. From 3 to 4, you fly in a hot air balloon, so there is
Can you
one
tell I
level
can't drop
transition, but it's a
pause
fade
into
to
her
black crash
hands?
land, and then you're
It's also a
somewhere.
matter of,
Until that moment, it was very cool.
will I
So there's one.
redo it? No,
Music.
because
Like I said, I sometimes
I'm
listen
getting
to
paid
Prison
15
Toys
bucks
and
and I
other
want to get it
songs,
done.
and I use them in videos. I love the entire LN2 soundtrack, and it perfectly complements every intense moment. This game has reasonably nice menu music, and a nice tune in the final segment of the game. No other music at any point in the game really adds anything besides just intense beat 3 for chases. None of the hard-hitting stuff that's beautifully integrated into the other games. The music in this game feels like an afterthought. Puzzles. While not the best part of Little Nightmares games, they serve to add gameplay and build up tension to improve encounters, as well as
It'd be like
emphasize
this.
the fact that you're navigating a place not built for you. We went through every chapter and counted how many puzzles LN3 had. Our criteria was pretty much anything that wasn't solved by Low shooting the bow or Alone hitting with the wrench, or singular tasks that are right in front of you, like a lever at the end of a hallway. Being very generous and counting something like one player moves a box while the other stands in the right spot as a puzzle, or jumping on the gnome chair. We got 8 puzzles in the whole game. If I was being harsh on what qualifies as a puzzle, then I would count just 3. 2 in Chapter 3, the platforming circle that rises out of the ground that you need to turn to get the right orientation, and where you gotta tune the radio and pull the lamp. 3rd is in Chapter 4, when you have the backwards time doll and gotta move through different states of door openness. If you're following my math, that's no puzzles in the first half of the game. 2 in Chapter 3 because they had to put something in the hour-long nothingness between the accountant and Funtime Freddy, and 1 to make navigating the boring Chapter 4 house a little more interesting. Compare that to LN2 with more harshness. I would say Chapter 1 has no puzzles, but that's debatable. Chapter 2 has the chess puzzle and 2 stealth puzzles. Chapter 3 has the key puzzle and the mannequin puzzle. Chapter 4 has the elevator puzzle, remote mail puzzle, multiple mini TV puzzles that count if the doll counts. And my favorite, the shopping cart puzzle. Then Chapter 5 has portal puzzles that culminate in the final boss being a challenging portal baiting puzzle. That's at least 9 if you call all of the remote stuff just 1. And they take thought. You will fail a couple times. It's not, I guess this is supposed to be a puzzle, so it counts. It's a section that requires setup and brain power. Yes, a 7-year-old is able to experience Little Nightmares 3 because nothing is difficult, but a 7-year-old is not dishing out 40 USD for a 5-hour game. Bugs. There's actually not that many, and you know me, I thrive on a funny, buggy game. I love goofy game quirks so long as they don't brick your progress. I'm in the rafters above Purple Guy. He's coming into your room.
Holy shit! No! Great job. Thanks for the play-by-play. And he's in your room.
He's killing you? He's killing you? What?
Oh, that was scripted.
Oh!
No, I'm back
you?
in the cage. I'm back in the cage.
John!
Are we serious?
Wait.
That has to be a bug. I'm back in the cage on the string.
So LN3 has a really bad bug deep into Chapter 3 that bricked our progress and forced us to replay the entire chapter. When Funtime catches you, fade to black, and Low and Alone are in cages. Alone immediately slides out of the cage, and then John, as Low, did the same thing. Okay, makes sense. They're both pretty skinny. The guy would kill John when he landed, so we figured out that we needed to distract him by hitting down the gnome, and then he leaves the room. At that point, John dropped down from his cage. There was this weird, useless ladder on the left, and we went about our business. The gnome gets crushed, RIP, and then John died. Now we're back in the cages. Weird, because we'd hit a checkpoint. Weirder still is that the distraction gnome is gone. We can't make Funtime leave the room anymore. We can't progress. Reloading checkpoints didn't work, restarting the game didn't work. I even had someone send me their single player save and tried to manually convert it to multiplayer, but that didn't work either. An hour of nothing Burger Chapter 3 later, and we were back to see how it was actually supposed to be done. Lo isn't supposed to be able to get out of his cage. I guess his bars are thicker.
It's
Once
uncut.
Funtime leaves the room, you're supposed to climb up the ladder as alone and knock it down. At which point, there's a checkpoint, and you can progress as normal. This game-breaking bug is happening to probably 10% of players. I watched one person stream the game and it happened to him as well. How do you delay a 5-hour game for a year and then have this massive of a shitty bug still in the game? It's embarrassing and not patched as of writing this. There's plenty of other bugs, like if you see your partner die, they will stand up and then blip back to their respawn point. Little immersion breaking, but whatever, I really don't mind that stuff. Single player. I played through the game solo to see if it was as bad as people were saying. And to be honest, I didn't think it was that much worse than co-op. It does turn half of your gameplay into calling your NPC to do their half of the nothingness, because the game wasn't made with any consideration for solo, and you can't switch characters at any point of the game, so too bad if you wanted to use the bow after picking a load.
You know, how can
The real killer here is for speedrunning, because single player is
game devs these days ever not consider that we just don't have friends? I can't do multiplayer. You gotta give me a single player way.
Go faster. It will also sometimes just decide to stop moving and require you reload the game. Cool. And because there's no local co-op, you can't just control both players like the It Takes Two solo run. Simply put, you're cooked. And anyone who runs this game solo can look forward to losing runs to the bot getting confused.
Dwightsnauzer says, LOL.
How do you feel about Twitter rolling out location flags to show like what country you're based in?
Play if you could swap characters, like what games have been capable of for 20 years. Finally, to drive my point home, I'm gonna directly compare the first chapter of Little Nightmares 2 to 3. For reference, I think chapter 1 is 3's best chapter, and I would call chapter 1 2's second or third best chapter. I really like 2 and 5. This will show what makes 2 great, and 3 just not
says,
interesting.
Wait, they doing that now?
With hints to the end of the game, but I think 2's ominous.
Yeah, like right now it's just in beta. I mean, something they're just testing. And I think right now it's just for your own account. But in theory, the final version will be that. Like, let's see, there's like accounts will show a flag of what country they're based out of. And they'll also show if the person is using a VPN.
There's tripwires obviously set by something much bigger than you. Even nature is
Dwightsnauzer says, I guess that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I wonder if you can ban, like, just, I want to block an entire country. I don't want to see any posts by anyone from this country.
Back to 3, there is nothing. Dangerous before you meet the baby, you can hardly even die. And the stone people along the way don't specifically hint at anything ominous ahead, except that, you know, Medusa is running around somewhere. Chapter 1 has no side risk to it, except the 4 bug battle, and I already complained about how
says,
baby is underwhelming.
Hey.
Back to 2, you enter a house that doesn't belong to you. Follow a faint music box to find someone just like you, and you rescue them with what's around you. She runs away.
Dwightsnauzer says, they should add that as an option for sure.
I mean, if they don't add it as an official option, how hard would it be to make into an extension? You know, just like, if, like, just, if account has an X flag, hide tweet.
Not something you're used to moving around in, and brother bursts out and explodes everything you
Imagine
The rest of the chapter is you and Six being hunted.
It would be magical,
yeah, you see the
actually.
baby, but then you don't for a while until you two run into each other again. Long time no
I like
see.
being able to
You
filter
get to
my
one last desperate
tweets
sprint avoiding the hunter and enter a
surgically.
small cabin where Mono and Six's
My
newfound
blocked
teamwork is
term
put to the
list
test.
was like 2
You stand your
pages
shotgun
long.
together and they help each other up and push away from that hell. Banger music plays as they come up on the towering buildings and step off towards whatever comes next. Your final encounter with the baby involves hiding behind this rattle, then this box, then the baby is chased off by birds, and then you teleport to the next chapter. There was no danger except the baby being too curious, and there were no memorable moments outside the baby, which still falls way short of what the hunter delivers. Now, LN3 will have DLC. It might be better. It probably won't be. Reanimal looks great, and I hope it captures the Little Nightmares feel, but I don't know if it will fill the void in my gamer heart that this game left me. I hope this review is able to properly capture the game's faults, because I know many of you who play the game feel the same way I do, but it is hard to put into words. So much of what makes Little Nightmares 1 and 2 good is really subtle. It's an atmospheric horror game. I can't simply say that the jump scares were bad or something. That's not what makes these games, and I put a lot of thought into how I wanted to present this. If you're thinking of buying this game, I wouldn't recommend it. It would be a pretty solid 10 Canadian dollar game if they added couch co-op, that is. There's better multiplayer games on the horizon, and I'm gonna forget Little Nightmares 3 as quickly as I can. I'm just gonna sit right here. Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe slightly
I
forward.
think I should take out.
Yeah, just a little bit.
It doesn't need to be that detailed.
White Snozzer says, yeah, would sure filter a lot stuff from the UK once that gets a beta.
For as long as I can remember, whenever some pre-existing
Should I
medium
draw on the
gets its
layer?
own video
Nah,
game,
but it-
usually it's only one of two things:
You know,
either
like,
good
I
or
I hate the country
nowhere near.
for
But I
its
never took the time to
not
ask
for its
myself
people,
if there
but
were
for
any
its
games like this that I
government
viewed as just
mostly.
in between. So recently,
But what do
I
you got
began
against its
looking around for
Twitters?
something to fit
What
into
do you
this
got
new
against
criteria,
Britain
and eventually
tweeters?
stumbled across not only a forgotten memory of mine, but a game that to this day I feel indifferent about. This game being The Walking Dead: Survival Instinct. Oh yeah, if you search this game into YouTube, you're gonna find about
How to
I'd
make
say
your life
500
5 times
people
harder
saying this
when
game
drawing.
sucks. The amount of criticism
Use
this
no
game
tools.
received upon release is worth bringing up. It felt as if nobody had anything
Scribble
positive to say
forever.
about this game. Metacritic's ratings for this are genuinely fucking horrible. IGN gave it a score of 4.5, and believe
White
it or
Snozzer
not,
says,
the creator
hate
of
the gov love the cool
Walking
raging
Dead
football
comics,
fans.
Robert Kirkman, has pretty blatantly
Did you know there's a
expressed his
video
disliking
game
towards this
reviewed by
game.
the
I was a bit
Snakerer,
taken aback.
or
I recall
Te
playing this
Snaker,
game in my youth, and I could have
TEH,
sworn
and
it was
it's a
not as
British
bad as people are
game,
saying it
or
is.
at least I can
did
only
not want
assume,
to
and
formulate
it's
my
all about
opinions
being the
based solely
best.
off of other people's
like,
input. I needed to play the game again
I don't
to
even know
make
how to
sure
describe this.
it was
The
really
best
this bad.
raging
So I opened up Steam, searched in the
football
game, and,
support
oh,
team.
no
It's
items
like you have to
were
like
actually
it's a strategy
This is
game
odd. It should be
where
known that Survival
you have to
Instinct was available on PlayStation
guide
3,
your
Xbox
group of
360,
rowdy
PC,
guys
and the Wii
into
U. Now, in
fighting other
2013,
football
this
fan
game would have
teams.
been easy to get, play,
And I think
review,
the
but
goal
in
is that you have to get
2025,
to the
that's just
stadium
not the case. This game is not backwards
in
compatible.
each
You'd be
level.
forced to
You
play
know,
it
it's
on the
a
console
different
it was assigned to. So I thought, well,
thing,
shit, guess I'll play
but
it digitally.
in
But
general, it's like a
apparently,
different
this
map,
game
and you
got
just have to get to the
delisted from
stadium
all digital app
while
stores
achieving
back in
different objectives,
2016.
like
I
beating up
just
other
talked about
enemy
this with
teams.
Friday the 13th, the game. But unlike
That's
that game,
the
I
one and
could
only
not
British
find out
game
Snozzer
I've
says,
ever heard of.
why this one
LMAO.
had been
And
delisted.
it just
People assume it must have been a
seems
mix of the
amazing
horrible
to me.
reception, Activision's expired licensing rights for The Walking Dead,
Shirison
or it
says,
very well could have
Bogo's
had
Ben.
something to do with how Terminal
Bogo's Ben?
Reality,
What?
the company that Oh, I
the
don't know,
name of the
developed
game,
this
I
game
wouldn't
stopped
know.
existing as
I'd
a
have to look at
corporate
the
entity the same
channel.
year
Let me
this
see.
game was released. Clusterfuck would be an understatement. So the only way to play this game digitally is if you find someone on Steam that has it in their library and you beg them to family share the game to you, or you can go online and try to find
Okay, I'm gonna find
the
it.
Steam key for the game. That is, if you feel like spending $200, 10% off. Oh, today's my lucky day. Taking that into account, this game is kind of rare, as are most games with expired IP rights. Mortal Kombat 9, such a good game. They fucked it. Fucking Freddy Krueger, you piece of shit. Despite how good or bad the game I'm about to play might be, it still has some purpose to the backstory of one of the show's
it's
most
called
popular
Hooligans.
characters, Daryl Dixon. A character that does not
Storm
even
over
exist
Europe.
in the original Walking Dead comics. The fact that he even has his own video game is pretty wild. What's even more wild is this game is widely considered to be a canonical entry that is a valid prequel to the Walking Dead television series. That just gives me one extra reason to cover it. Now this video is going to be very long. You know the drill, big plot summary followed by my thoughts. It's just the way I do things. So go ahead and lean back and oh, actually before you lean back, hit the subscribe button. We're very close to 100.
I will say, like, the plot summary style of video game essay,
Everybody hates The Walking Dead.
a bit played out, but considering I'm never gonna play these, I find a way to now. Like, it's a fine content form. It's a fine content medium.
The game begins with us playing as a character only referred to as Dixon. You're
Okay to
currently
strive
hunting
for
in the
more.
woods with two other people, Jess and a man named Buck. A very southern name. Jess and Buck are tracking closely behind a deer they've shot, having to rely on the trail of blood it left behind to figure out where it went. Walking through the clearing, Jess notices some of the blood on the rocks.
I think I see some blood.
Like, Walking Dead was, man, I got the
White Snozzer says,
demo for a phone.
wow, that's a real game, holy cow.
Almost too dark. Going through the trees at the end of the trail leads
You
you to
think I'm
Buck, who
lying to
tells you
you?
to crouch down to keep
No,
quiet and not
I
spook
don't
the deer up
lie,
ahead.
at least
Sneaking our
in
way
these
up the
terms
trail,
of
we
things.
eventually find the deer in a small clearing. A small blotch of blood around its neck
I'm
confirms
not
it's
even
the one they
creative enough
shot
to make
earlier.
up that
Right
kind of
as
game.
you raise your rifle to shoot it, you hear rushing back to see what has happened. In the literal 20 seconds you were away, you find out your friend Buck is being eaten by two walkers. And due to Buck firing his rifle several times before going
Man,
down,
how'd you
a
shoot off like
horde of
5
the undead
rounds and
emerges
still get
from the
eaten?
woods. You try your best to fight him off, but soon enough, you run out of ammo, and you are very quickly overwhelmed.
What in the hell, Dixon?
Jess, unable to take his eyes away from the horrific aftermath, gets bit on his right arm. Up until this point, I've been pretty vague as to
Dude's the
who
worst
we've been
hunter ever.
playing
Can't
as this
even
whole time.
hear
You'd assume it would be
that sneak
Daryl
up.
or Merle, considering this character is referred to as Dixon, which is their surname. But whenever Jess calls Daryl over and he looks down at us, it's revealed who we were playing as.
Who were we playing? Oh my god!
We can. Well, we could.
He's too busted
Daryl's dead!
Nothing can be done
Which is
now.
important for some reason. I totally know. I lied. I stopped watching very early on. The show, at least, so I know nothing. You got a mouth color?
Sorry, brother.
Yes.
We were playing as Will Dixon, the father of Daryl and Merle, and the half-brother to Jess. Not too much is disclosed about him in this game, but just from watching the show, you can immediately tell Will was not the greatest father figure. His actions being
I didn't watch the
reason
show.
Daryl
I don't
to
know.
this day
Don't
has
assume.
belt scars all across his back. Interestingly enough, despite Daryl's father being an abusive piece of shit, he still could not bring himself to put his own father down. The relationship between them two must have been extremely complicated. Although, Will's death was not entirely in vain. Jess and Daryl, the only survivors of the hunting trip, learn two things from this. Taking down the undead can only be done with head trauma, and that silence is what's gonna help them survive. The main reason Will died was because of how much noise was made. In order to not meet the same fate, we, the player, must
I always
utilize
forget
sneaking to ensure
whether
our
tongues should be darker or lighter in color
After this point, the game
than
introduces
the
us
mouth.
to both melee attacks to better ensure being quiet, and restorative items, such as sports drinks and MREs that can be found
lighter.
in every location. If you start running low on stamina, one swig of the sports drink will refill it all the way up, and also heals you a little bit, while MRE just heals you a bit more. Taking a look around the cabin, you can tell that it is far from luxurious. It becomes very apparent.
I dislike
whenever you see
this
a lawn chair
mechanic.
indoors.
Sports
Leaving
drinks.
your room, Jess
All
wants
would
to
have is
discuss a
sugar.
plan. While talking,
Why would
he
that
indirectly states that this is their
up your
first
stamina
time encounter with the undead.
versus food?
Like that. If you told me about it, I'd call you a liar.
That just adds to the weight of that situation. That is horrifying. Daryl is clearly still pissed about his dad's death and wants to head out there and kill every last one of the walkers. Jess being Will's half-brother, he's obviously upset too, but he tells Daryl it's much more safe
almost
to
there.
just gather up as many supplies as they can
tail
and leave.
tips,
Daryl is tasked with
and then
collecting 3
the
cans
arm
of fuel for the
tips.
trip ahead
Okay.
and meeting Jess back at his truck. Sounds simple enough. You're also given this hammer and this little collectible squirrel statue. A bunch of walkers are heard trying to get in through the front door, so you're forced to exit out the back door. Getting outside, Daryl spots an unsuspecting walker. The game tells us that we can perform an execution, which can be done by pressing whatever button you hotkeyed it to while right up behind a walker. This is what it looks like whenever you succeed. And this is what it looks like whenever you fuck it up several times. This way of dealing with them is silent and brings no attention to you at all. The only downside being that you have to be right up on a walker for it to work. Getting introduced to the other combat of this game is nothing special. You slice or bash in the head of a walker until they collapse. If you hold the melee swing for longer, the hit is heavier, but it takes longer to deploy. If you miss that heavy swing, you're gonna be in trouble. And occasionally, you can shoot whatever firearm you pick up if you want a faster result. You just have to hit headshots. If you hit him in the body, that's not going to do anything. The drawback, of course, being that you're going to draw as much attention to you as possible. There's a couple more things about combat that get revealed later on, but as of right now, the whole swinging and shooting, it's pretty simple. After collecting 2 fuel cans and going towards the third one, the game
He looks
shows
like a
you way of
superhero. That's the
distracting
only thing I
walkers
can think
using
of.
glass bottles or flares. It's a cool idea, but I'm letting you know right now, this is the only time in the game I use that mechanic. You grab the final fuel can and make a mad dash back to the truck. You safely get inside and begin your journey down the road. Once we get in the truck, we are introduced to the travel map. Each time you finish a mission, you're given the option to select both a road type and sometimes even a destination. More on that later. You're given the option of highways, which use little fuel, but your car has a higher chance of breaking down and needing a repair, and a very low chance of stopping for supplies. While back roads use up more fuel, but you have a lesser chance of breaking down, and you stop more often for supplies along the way. Taking the streets is
Okay. Why is there a greater chance of breaking down and needing repairs on the highway versus the back roads? I get that the speed is a factor, but on the back roads, wouldn't the roads be, rougher, more debris, maybe less flat? Meanwhile, highway, unless the theory would be that, okay, zombie apocalypse highway, because everyone tried to escape, the highways would actually be like worse off in terms of a lot more cars blocking the way? Question mark? Like, I want that logic explained to me.
Is a happy medium of the both. The destination is named Sedalia, a little area where hunters would usually gather up on supplies before heading into the mountains. During the drive there, Daryl and Jess talk
what's the
about
title of
many
this video?
different things, namely going to find Daryl's brother, Merle.
We gotta go get Merle. Merle, he's just not right. What you say to me, old man? Merle's 10 times the man you are. All right. It just seems you boys turn hay into shit when you're together.
Arriving in Sedalia, you're introduced to the travel hub.
Okay, why is this title The Walking Dead game everybody hates?
Either load up
Why does everyone hate it?
Into your
I mean,
vehicle for storage, or give any survivors in your party something to scavenge for, such as ammo, food, or fuel, alongside giving them a weapon to help. If the survivors return from the scavenge and are injured, you can use available MREs to heal them up, at the cost of sparing your own healing supplies. To best manage your survivors,
White's
there is a
Nauser
stat
says,
bar at the bottom which
LOL.
tells you how risky each
Grr.
scavenge is. Looking at Sedalia, it seems to be in complete disaster. Jess and Daryl were gonna stop here for more fuel anyways, but it looks like that might not even be an option. He tells you if there's any left, it will be at Lucky's, the gas station across the way. You make your way past the streets, through a pharmacy with its power cut, and make your way into a fenced-off section behind
the comments are interesting in this video.
You hear a voice call out from the rooftop. Climbing the ladder, you meet Jimmy Blake, who besides a deputy who has locked himself in a cellar across town, is the last
White's Nauser
surviving
says,
police officer
if
in
I remember that
Sedalia.
Walking
The
Dead
only
game
other
was
person
super
he
bad.
knows for
Alright.
sure is alive is a man in the gas station across the
It's 'cause-
street. Blake
alright.
needs new
So I guess the whole point is that's what he meant. So he's gonna do a plot synopsis, and then he's gonna get into why the game is bad. Like I don't think I like that video structure, to be honest, because I feel like burying the lead. I want to know why the game is bad. I want the rage, and I want the complaining. But one comment: the fact that the facial animations in this game are still better than some of the games we get today. True, though. There's a lot of times that I just have to look away from the mouse in a lot of games. Blah.
batteries for his radio, and says if we find some, he will be on the lookout for any walkers and snipe them. Seems like a fair deal. Heading back down, I found a room that had a lead pipe and another squirrel collectible. This pipe kills walkers in 2 hits. It's quite nice. As you make your way to the gas station across the street, you're suddenly introduced to the most infamous mechanic about this game, the grapple. If you get too close to a walker...
Alright, and also the grammar of that last sentence was a bit annoying. The most infamous mechanic about this game?
And put you in this introduced to the most infamous mechanic about this game, the grapple. If you
No, how about mechanic in this game?
one of the survivor camps mentioned by Scout or the hospital.
And also, I
Outside,
accidentally
you hear the
skipped right.
confirmed whenever you walk into one of the motel rooms and find the ever hotel. Find Jeff does come around. Came operate usually right as is as you're there as well. I his screen. Here I will have to get it. And Daryl tells him in the most fucked up way that his dad and uncle are dead.
Are my dad and Uncle Lester behind you?
Just get the pumps on, okay, Warren?
Afterwards, you unlock the cage, kick on the generator, and hear Blake shouting from above.
Hey! You got it running!
It was here
I know.
realized that even though
I know I
I
got it
grabbed
running.
those batteries for Jimmy Blake, I forgot to actually give them to him. So whenever walkers started spilling out onto the street, he was not covering me. Regardless, I had to fill up a fuel canister while making sure none of the walkers got the jump on me. You finish filling it up, and a small crowd forms in the street. I almost got messed up here, but thankfully I fought out of it. Shortly afterwards, I was forced up a ladder and had to be on top of a tanker truck.
This reminds me of another... Alright, there's another manhwa I was reading, which I actually kind of liked. It was called Solo Resurrectioner? Or maybe I think it was just called Solo Resurrection.
You hop off the tanker and once again made a
And
mad dash
concept
back
was
to
a
the
bit
truck
interesting.
before
So
the mission
the
ends.
character's sister has like just a normal, you know, office building job, and she still goes to work even as the world is, you know, falling apart. People are getting powers, gates are opening, monsters are coming in.
Warren is stealthy, prefers blunt weapons, but is weak, so his health is a bit lower. This time
These
on the
are like
travel
sense
map, you
of,
can choose
yeah, look, the
destination.
world
Your
might be
choices
ending, but
are
I still gotta go to
Darwater, which is
work.
described as a section of ranger and fire
And
stations that
the reason I
promise
was thinking of it
security
is
and
like gas
protection, or
station, right?
Pemberton, where the sheriff that the deputy mentioned earlier
Who
operated
would,
things as a
alright,
bunch of
in
survivors
the
flocked
in
there,
the
but
scenario of an
unfortunately, that also
apocalypse,
caused a bunch
how many
of
people
walkers
would
to go
know how to
there as
get
well.
gas
I thought,
pumped?
screw it, let's be dangerous. Like mentioned before getting to Sedalia,
Know how
Daryl's
to
goal
work their
here
way
is to
around
get
the
to
entire
Fontana
gas
and
station
find
to
his
get the
brother
gas
Merle.
pumped.
But as you're
Assuming you
making
have
your
no
way over
money
there, the truck
and
begins to break
assuming
down.
everything's
Now,
broken.
for the time being, the goal has
Like,
switched to finding a new car.
the
Daryl and Jess
question,
talk about finding
well,
some new
it would be a
wheels,
big
and it's
question of
very
like how
obvious Jess is
how much
starting to
time until
look and
electronics
feel
stopped
a
working.
lot worse than he did earlier in the day. You already know how this is gonna go down, but the catch is Daryl doesn't. Jess blatantly lies and says he's doing fine, like every old guy does for some fucking reason, and just says he's tired after a long day. Right as Daryl turns around to begin the mission, the first thing he says is,
Jess, where'd you go?
he completely lost track of where Jess had gone. You enter the largely abandoned police station in hopes of finding somebody, and eventually you hear a voice in the distance. You go to investigate and you find a lone sheriff still operating things. Sheriff John Turner. For days he's been trying to direct orders and save his officers, but alas, most of them have either died or came back from the dead. He does initially lie to Daryl and tell him whoever was left would go and look for his Uncle Jess.
Looking for my Uncle Jess on a working ride. Give me a description, I'll have my men keep an eye out. Don't blow smoke up my ass. You ain't gonna look for him. Son, I'm trying to keep what's left of an entire county alive. I can't leave here.
But does come around to striking up a deal with Daryl, saying that if he goes and checks the motel across the bridge and finds the deputies that he sent over there, they'll help Daryl find Jess, and Turner will give you one of his police cruisers. That being a pretty solid deal, Daryl tunes his radio to Turner's station and makes his way to the motel. Turner gets on the radio and tells you the only spot Jess could have gone is the motel across the way. As you make your way across the bridge and see the ever-forming crowd in the road, you kinda get the suspicion that the deputies didn't make it. Your suspicion is confirmed whenever you walk into one of the motel rooms and find the deputy Turner sent here. More importantly, his shotgun. A crawling zombie then bursts out of a vent, but it's pretty trivial to take him down. You keep searching around the motel trying to find Jess, but he's nowhere to be seen. With no other options, you head back to the police station, taking down some more walkers along the way, and break the news to Turner. He's devastated, but you can tell it's starting to have less of an effect on him, likely due to how often it's been happening the past few days. Although you did not find his deputies, he still held up his end of the deal, giving you the keys to one of the police cars. While doing this, he lets you know of a location called Palmetto Estates, that area being used by the military to evacuate citizens. He tells us he sent his daughter there and that it's in our best interest to go there too. As you're heading back to the entrance of the station, going to claim your new ride, you spot Jess.
Uncle Jess, where the hell you been, you old coot?
But it turns out Jess finally succumbed to the bite. A now reanimated Jess lunges at Daryl, and Daryl has to resort to stabbing his half-uncle right in the head. In the span of one day, Daryl has lost both his father and his half-uncle. He already learned a good bit of things from his father's passing, but now, with
How
Jess
long did that guy
gone,
survive
he
a
learns
bite,
one
though?
new thing. Getting bit will cause you to turn into one of them. The only piece of family he has left is his brother Merle, and with his new ride, that's exactly who he's going to find. The new vehicle we got can hold more survivors at the cost of having higher fuel consumption and having a few less slots for inventory storage. These stats vary widely for what model of car you find on your trip. Daryl heads down the road to a place called Fontana, another place trying to barricade to stop the walkers, but eventually becomes overrun. Upon arriving, it is immediately apparent that somebody is camping out, shooting at random stuff in the road. All this noise draws in this giant crowd of walkers in the
What
streets.
kind of
Though it
very
does look a bit
unwise
pessimistic,
person is doing
Daryl
that?
tries to still find his brother in Fontana. How does he know Merle's in Fontana? Well, before the outbreak, Merle was arrested and held here. So Daryl's taking a bit of a gamble, just assuming that his brother hasn't moved on. You make your way into a small diner across the way. While inside, you hear the voices of survivors. Not only that, but also 8 walkers. Since we're in a closed area, I thought, why not test out some of the firearms? Pretty badass, I'm not gonna lie. You go further into the kitchen area and find 2 people. One named Noah, and the other one goes by Scout, but her real name is Anna Turner, the sheriff's daughter.
Thanks, from both of us.
He bit?
Gunshot. Some crazy asshole is sniping at us. And car alarms. I dragged Noah in here, they followed.
Who's us? You two?
Got a whole team out there. Or did. We scavenged supplies for the local survivor camps.
There's survivor camps?
Yeah. The military supplies some of them with weapons, meds. There's a big one at Cherokee Hill Sawmill. We were doing pretty well until that psycho sniper showed up and brought a whole mob of fighters down on top of us. We got split up, pinned down, killed. I need to get my people together. One of my runners, Mia, is holed up in the theater across the street. Help her out and I'll make it worth your while. Trade you one of those. Lots of goodies in there, hillbilly.
You make your way over to the theater, narrowly avoiding the horde in the street, and search around for Mia. You eventually hear her in the distance just pleading for you not to shoot her. You run upstairs after her and meet her formally. Well, not really formally.
Get away from me, you asshole!
I ain't the asshole you're worried about.
Who are you then?
I'm a different one.
Say what you will about the game, the dialogue is pretty funny sometimes. You confirm to her that you are not the sniper whenever you both hear another shot outside. You tell Mia Scout sent you, and she tells
I think
you
that has to be one of my favorite tropes in like a murder mystery, where they arrest one person, or like it has to be this person, but then another murder happens and they're like, fuck, it wasn't that person, was it? Or was it a copycat and that person actually is the culprit?
To actually get out of here. I did that real quick, utilizing guns in a closed environment before clearing out the way and heading
what
back
should I do
to
with
Scout
this?
and Noah. Although, whenever I entered the diner and back into the kitchen area, they're gone.
Ugh, you cheating, manipulative little bitch.
Daryl's clearly upset.
White Snozzer
Scout
says,
leaves a note explaining that
LMAO
Noah's
right.
injury had gotten worse to where they needed to find medical supplies. So
I
they
need a
made
good
break
murder
for a
mystery
hospital
game,
down the road.
Snowzer.
And
I want to
unfortunately
prove
for
that I have
Daryl, the
big
survivor
boy
camps needed the supplies
brains.
more than Daryl did.
I could
Although
solve a
she did
murder.
leave car keys
And the
for
truth
an
is that I
even newer
can't.
ride. But Daryl is still pissed about being essentially lied to for saving Mia. I headed into the meat locker and found one of the best melee weapons in the game, the machete. Take a look at this. That's awesome, dude. You make your way to the station that has holding cells, and you try to find your brother. But you quickly realize one of 2 things. Merle is nowhere to be seen in his cell. And 2, that
Shirison
sniper
says,
is camping out
Weenie
on
Hut
top
Jr.
to
mystery
this
game for
very
query.
building.
Is that an actual game? Let's see if you're a little liar.
To the rooftop, and just then,
Oh no! Sneaking
Oh.
up, are we? No,
Is
no.
it?
You're never gonna take me back there.
Oh, come on.
White Snozzer
It looks like a
says,
SpongeBob
I think there are a few good ones out there.
reference.
Long-lost baby brother. You just
Shirison says, no, it's a SpongeBob reference.
Damn it, Merle. I'm just gonna leave you here.
Yeah, well, now I can go on fandom.com, Encyclopedia SpongeBobia.
Them people locked me up for days.
What is this? Weenie Hut Juniors is a restaurant located in Bikini Bottom. It has 3 other counterparts: Super Weenie Hut Juniors, Weenie Hut General, and Weenie Hut Seniors. First appears in the episode No Weenies Allowed. Its only known employee is the animatronic server. Product: hot dogs, ice cream, and soda.
Going on right now. So he's the main reason that Scout's group got torn apart.
Role in video games. Weenie Hut Juniors appears in the console version of the video game Creature from the Krusty Krab in the level Revenge of the Giant Plankton Monster. It can also be seen in Boating Bash. It also also appears in the cooking app game SpongeBob Krusty Cook-Off, as well as the city building game SpongeBob Adventures in a Jam. It also appears in the sandbox game The Patrick Star Game. Alright, grammar edit for this SpongeBobipedia. You don't want to be like, it can also be seen, it also appears, it also appears. It's a bit clunky. There are 167 members online in the Encyclopedia SpongeBobia Discord server.
He's actually getting more symptoms than just a sunburn. Under that assumption, I chose to go to the hospital. It also seems that this hospital was getting military assistance whenever it was operational, so there could be some good supplies there. On the way to the hospital, we encounter one of the instances where we absolutely have to stop the car. The journey between your destinations can be broken up by many different things. Anything from optionally scavenging for supplies, moving cars out of the road to clear
This looks fun.
as opposed to taking a detour which would use more fuel, and the instance where you have to stop whenever your car has internal problems. In my instance, the battery on our new car just died, although a plethora of other things can happen to your car, like you needing coolant, running out of fuel, needing a new radiator hose. Pretty sure your tires can get fucked up too, but essentially the only way you can fix this is by going into this big scavenge map and finding the thing you need to replace. Taking the highways is the
seems pretty
worst
realistic.
case scenario if you want to avoid breaking down, and that's the road type I've been using the most in this playthrough. But after solving that, on the drive there, Daryl breaks the news of what happened to both Jess and their dad.
Well, I still don't get that logic.
Man, I gotta tell you something. Something happened, bro.
I got it. Full-bore, flesh-eating apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah, but we were up at Jess's camp house when the eaters came down on us.
Eaters?
We never heard anything about them. They tore us up. Jess and me, we were the only ones to get out.
Where's the old man?
He was up at the camp house too. He didn't make it, bro.
He dead? The old man's dead? You let the abominations get him? Did he turn into one? Did you let that happen too?
No, we gave him mercy.
What'd he say? What did he say?
He said, tell Merle I'm proud of him.
I don't think that's what he said, but...
What'd he really say?
I do appreciate how complex their feelings are about their horribly abusive father now being out of the picture. Merle doesn't know how to react
Thank you
except
for the
with anger
follow.
and, dare I say, confusion. These two
I can't
characters are
read
very
it because I'm
complex, and I'm glad to
blind.
see more people
Oh,
notice it over the
meowdy.
years. They arrive at the
that's-
hospital, and Merle starts immediately labeling off some
It's a
medicine
cute
that
name.
he thinks he needs. Upon
Meow,
walking
meow.
inside, I realize maybe this was the wrong location to pick. This is creepy as hell. Walking down the hall to your left, you hear a voice, and upon approaching, you recognize Noah. He seems a lot more energetic and active than the last time we saw him. He tells you that he and Scout split up as she went to the morgue to find medical supplies. Mind you, a morgue is a horrible place to be when the dead begin walking. Noah warns us about some military personnel still
Can
remaining in
anyone
the hospital.
recap
You ask Noah for some antibiotics,
on The Walking Dead?
but he
Did
doesn't have
people that
any
were
on him.
already
So
dead
we've just gotta keep
suddenly
looking around.
reanimate as
As we
well?
continue our way through the hospital, you cannot help but feel it is disturbingly quiet. The only thing that breaks the silence is Daryl and Merle talking on the radio.
Some light'd be nice.
What do you see?
What do you think I see? It's a fucking hospital.
But even then, usually by now you'd have ran into a walker. As you check off the bodies, there is zero sign of life anywhere. Dead patients and nurses are strewn all across the floor of this place, and the only real sounds you hear as you walk further into this place is an electrical hum and the sound of your own footsteps. All of this eeriness comes to a head whenever you enter one of the patient rooms and see somebody laying dead on an examination table. Except this person does not look like a walker. In fact, it looks like they just recently passed away. Right next to them, you see a bunch of files on a desk. They're not just normal patient files. They almost look like experimentation notes, it becomes painfully clear that something very odd is happening in this place. You eventually start seeing a few more walkers as you get closer to the cafeteria. Entering said cafeteria, Merle says,
Where can you get a poke and a smoke around here?
Damn it, Merle, you're gonna get me killed.
Causing a ton of walkers to get up and start rushing you. I took a few hits here, but thankfully the machete is busted. Moving past the cafeteria, Daryl changes the channel on his radio so Merle can shut up and not almost get him killed. Daryl coincidentally ends up on the hospital's radio channel.
What the hell are you doing?
Changing the channel, you monkey.
Candace, just wait. Candace, it isn't a function of the central nervous system, but of the peripheral. Do you have samples? A working serum? That's why I stayed. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. He'll have it. I will. Lieutenant Rose is searching with his men as we speak.
What are these ladies doing?
Super cool detail here is that one of the voices in this exchange is Edwin Jenner's wife, Candace Jenner. To this day, I still wish that she had some screen time in the show. Well, other than that, of course. Basically, Candace is asking if there's any working serums or samples, and the other voice heavily implies that they're going to search the hospital for any survivors and forcefully run experiments on them, in hopes of finding a cure or serum to the virus, which explains the fate of that woman
Hey,
on
why
the
you gotta
examination
come
table.
after everyone in the
Progressing further into
hospital? Find your
until you're
own
interrupted by the
samples.
sound of possibly hundreds of walkers banging down on one of the double doors in the hallway. You slowly walk past it, but right as you're about to make enough distance, that bitch breaks wide open. Right when this happens, you can hear military personnel on your radio say that they've spotted a woman, most likely Scout. As you're running away from the forming horde, you notice that the hospital looks rough, almost like the hall was set on fire sometime in the past, when suddenly one of the most unpredictable things ever happens. The whole fucking floor of the hospital collapses. Daryl falls through the floor and wakes up in a random room, and thus the horde following him instead redirected their attention to the soldiers remaining in the hospital, as you can hear someone on the radio saying they've encountered the infected. Shortly after, Daryl tells Merle that the person who was on the radio maybe can help them. Their goal is to find medicine after all, and if anyone's gonna know where they store it, it's most likely the people who operated this place before it all went to shit. You open the door to the main plaza, and I was met with a very difficult choice. The entrance to the hospital has black paint on it saying, "Don't open, dead." Nice reference to the show, but the issue is the door is being held shut with a fire axe. That is the only thing keeping that door from swinging inwards. One part of me says that I should...
Oh, yeah.
Relax, it's worth it. Watch this. Eventually, you stumble upon where Noah said Scout was heading, the morgue. And upon entering, oh my god, there is zero way I could take them all down alone. So, I chose to sneak past. But regardless of that, by the time I cleared the room and got to the end of the hallway, a giant horde was waiting for me on the right turn. You quickly turn left and dash to the stairwell and just barely make it there in time before shutting the door behind you. You run up the stairs, walk down a long hallway, and make your
one of my
way
other
into
favorite
a
tropes
room
in
where you meet
long
that
form
doctor
video
you
game
heard on the radio
analyses
earlier. And it turns out
has to be
after
when they
searching the
tell you
hospital,
a
she did
good version
eventually
of the
find
story
somebody to get a
and then
sample
go
out of.
psych. Actually, the story really sucks. This is how it actually played out. The one I know that does this a lot is Zenny reviews, especially with the Avatar game.
You can either
God damn,
take the
you got me.
medication Merle needs from the doctor, or save Noah from being experimented on. Obviously, I saved Noah. I ran up to the room he was trapped in and cleared out all of the walkers that were about to get him.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Woo! I owe you, dude. Big time. I gotta go find Scout.
You do that. Where's that bitch doctor?
She ran off while you were fighting.
She knew what was good for her then.
Hey, I found these before they caught me. It's not much.
That might work.
I think Noah gave us some medicine to help Merle, but I'm not sure. It's never brought up. So our last goal here is to leave this place. Stepping out of this room and going towards an exit, walkers are damn near making a blockade in the hallway, so I shoved past them, gunned down a few of them, and safely made it back to the car. With that out of the way, our next stop is that biker club Merle was talking about earlier, Jake's. But on the way there, a small issue arises down the road. There's this area called Lemon Hill. This place was holding a summer festival on the day of the outbreak. The festival was going to feature a fireworks show, so a ton of people showed up. But when the virus eventually reached this place, not only did the crowd draw more walkers in, but they also heavily added to the population of them too. This new giant herd of them looks like they're heading towards that biker club Merle wants to go to. So the two stop at Lemon Hill, hoping to cause a big enough distraction to deter this new horde from approaching the clubhouse. The game reiterates just how dangerous this area is. If you try to send out a group of survivors on this mission, it is a death sentence. The pure abundance of the walkers is just too much for them to handle, so it's best if you just leave them at the car.
I'll head left and circle back. You go right, and then meet me in the middle.
So what are we looking for?
Anything that'll stop that parade of debtors reaching the bar.
Sneaking in this level is damn near obligatory. Even with your current weapons, the horde here could easily overpower you. As you quietly make your way into the gas station, Merle finds out the fact I told you earlier, that this place was prepped for a fireworks show. Daryl's idea is to take a bunch of bundles of fireworks, stuff them in the church across the town, and then
bang goes the dynamite,
drawing enough attention away from the road and instead to that building. So that is your goal for this mission. Searching around the alleyways and rooftops for a few bundles of fireworks to stuff inside of the church. While doing this, you find
what does that even mean, stuff inside of the church?
Need to locate the keys for
like, there's so many
logistical
obstacles with this.
As Merle and Daryl have a few conversations on the radio.
You'll do.
Daryl, you think these walkers feel pain?
I hope they do.
You know I got your back. Hell, I'm the only man you could ever count on.
Yeah, I know.
You finish up finding the rest of the fireworks and luckily find the keys to that car. Unfortunately for you, to get to the church, you must make your way through a cemetery, which, just like the morgue, probably bottom 10 places you want to be in a zombie apocalypse. You make your way into the church and place all the fireworks in spots you knew would carry the flame nicely. But before actually setting it off, you need to draw attention. So you find your way to a ladder leading to the church bell. After pulling the rope and ringing it 3 times to draw in as many walkers as possible, you toss a flare into the room below, igniting all of the fireworks. You quickly escape down a ladder out back, backtrack through the cemetery, and are just in time to see what Merle was planning for his distraction.
Fire in the hole, time, girl!
It's not a competition, but I'm pretty sure his won. You make your way back to the car and the mission ends. Nice and short, unlike that fucking hospital. I take a look at the new car we found in this mission and it just seems to be a direct downgrade from what we currently have. It has medium consumption and the same stats in everything else, so I just stuck with our current car. With that out of the way, we can finally make our way to the biker bar.
Yes, sir. I've been looking forward to this every day for the last month.
Yeah? So what's the surprise, Merle?
What? Right. Wouldn't be a surprise now if I told you, right?
It's gonna be nothing if I can pull over.
All right. Just trying to do something nice is all.
All right, I'm pulling over.
I kept something of yours. It's back at the bar with my hog.
What for?
Same reason I kept this wristband that Mama gave me, I suppose.
Whenever we arrive at the bar's location, Merle does something weird. Right as we begin the mission, Merle turns to Daryl and says,
"Stay here."
What?
In a rare instance for Season 1 Daryl, he goes against Merle's word. As Daryl approaches Jake's bar, he notices bikes out front, confirming that at least some of this club is still here. But as you get closer to the entrance, you hear gunshots coming from inside.
What the hell? Don't kill me, brother.
I ain't your brother.
What are you hiding from?
I swear it. Oh, I believe you, Ash. You're too damn chicken shit to cross me.
It's revealed to us that Merle was initially the leader of the Savage Sons Motorcycle Club, but before the outbreak, somebody in his group ratted him out to the cops for his drug-related activities. It's never explained why, but I assume Merle
Schweitznozer
came here
says,
looking for an answer.
now
and
I
when
think
he
about
did
it,
not
L.A.
get
Noire
them,
was
his
one of my
goals
all-time
switched
favorite
to
mystery
killing
games.
Everybody, taking back his stash, and then stealing all of their
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Daryl is
People did
understandably
say good things
pissed,
about that.
realizing that the only reason he had
I
driven
mean,
this
especially
far
like
was
the
for some
mechanics, you
petty
gotta like.
revenge plot.
I
That, as it
remember
stands,
the
does not really
commentary,
matter considering the
like
world has
body
gone to shit. But Merle, in
reactions,
response, gestures over
facial
to a
behavior,
crossbow on a man he had shot
kind
earlier.
of thing.
Don't be that way. Look, I kept that crossbow of yours.
Man, you just don't get it, do you?
Uh-oh. Hey, Merle's here!
Come on, grab all the shit. We gotta get to Merle before he can ride.
You wake up shortly after and realize that those two men stole every single one of your items, even the knife you start out with. Everything is gone. As you hear walkers begin banging on the entrance doors, you need to find a weapon quickly. You, luckily enough, locate a new knife, when suddenly the biker that had the crossbow on his back reanimates and gets the jump on you. After you deal with him, you are given the greatest weapon in the game, the crossbow. Not only do you have a silent firearm, but as long as you pick up the crossbow bolts after they are fired, you've pretty much got unlimited ammo. I can see why the man himself used it for so long in the show. You make your way through the walkers that break into the bar and follow the sound of
like
more
arrows
gunshots in the
and
distance in hopes of
crossbows.
finding Merle.
An
As you get
OP,
closer to the source of the
except
gunfire,
for the
you
ammo,
hear it
like
go from what initially
ammunition
sounded
part. So
like
you
a
do gotta fucking
standoff
pick up
to
your
now frantic
arrows.
shooting accompanied by cries of agony.
Like even in the ammo department, easier to MacGyver an arrow than it would be to actually make a bullet.
Including the ones who robbed you, being eaten by the undead. Shortly after dealing with those walkers, you thankfully come across all of your supplies. But right as you go to pick them up, a bunch of walkers from 3 different directions run out and group up around the bikers' corpses. You try looking around a bit more to find Merle, but instead, you're met with a familiar face
Schweitznozer
in
says,
need of assistance.
in games like
Anna
this, bows and
Turner,
crossbows
or
are up like
Scout.
State of
She's on
Decay.
top of a delivery truck with 5 walkers reaching up to
Yeah,
get
there's
her.
this
You gun
one
them all down,
Korean,
and Daryl has a one-sided,
it's a
stern
Korean
conversation
zombie
with Scout
show. It's
about not
called
giving
All
him
of
the
Us Are
supplies
Dead.
back at the diner.
Saved your ass at the
So it's based at a school. And it's a really high quality show. I really love the makeup and the zombie acting and the entire like story, like the plot line as well. So this is like chef's kiss. Alright, but the OP students are the archer students. They come back. They didn't win the championship.
Merle was nowhere to be found in Barksdale.
But that's actually a good thing,
Daryl had to
'cause
move on and
they're back to
hopefully
help.
find him somewhere down the road. Considering
Such
that
a
stunt he pulled,
magnificent
Daryl
moment.
probably feels a little bit less guilty driving off having not found him yet. You're once again given 2 options of where to go. Archer Creek, which is not only a really cool name, but is also a confederacy of survivors located at a dam facility. Or Lafferty, a mall where when the outbreak first occurred, vaccinations were offered there. But as soon as more walkers showed up, it was a lost cause. I'm still gonna pick the more dangerous option. On the drive there, Anna formally introduces herself and explains to Daryl why she left the diner. It's pretty much a rephrasing of that note she left for Daryl. She then goes on to mention her father, that sheriff we met. She tells you that she did promise her dad to get to that evacuation site at Palmetto Estates, whereas John told her that he was going to be getting together some of his deputies and would meet her along the way. But if you remember, John didn't exactly have any deputies left. They all died. We confirmed that for him. Yet for some reason, Daryl says,
That's the best plan I heard all week.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does not matter which path you take, Daryl just does not speak up about things like this. He never once mentions to Scout that he had initially met her father, and I would have liked if the dialogue changed since we took the path to actually meet him, but whatever. You arrive at Lafferty and can immediately tell people tried really hard to secure this place. In fact, in the distance, you can still hear that some of the military is active. The gate to the mall is blocked off, so you have to do this really weird puzzle where you push this car and then jump on the car and then jump on the boxes to hop over the fence. Once you make your way over, you see some military vehicles driving along the highway. You make your way into the mall and coincidentally meet up with none other than Noah.
I'm Noah, remember? I lost Scout at the hospital. Was hoping to catch up to her here.
Yeah, she's just outside.
Wow, really? You two running together?
For the time being, looks like.
Can't help but feel like if we went to Archer Creek, Noah would have died here waiting for Scout. Just then, you hear the sound of the military clearing out walkers outside.
Okay, here they come. What you wanted?
Just right. Hey, commence Operation Pied Piper. Full purge is in effect. Fire at will. Take out everything that moves.
With an order like that, the military has probably, or might still be, accidentally shooting civilians. So Noah tells Daryl to stick to the inside of the mall and hopefully run into those soldiers on the other side a lot more formally. Noah says he will tag along, which is great because he is one of the best survivors in the game. Shortly after this room, you find SUV keys, which is the only car you're gonna need from this point on. And you continue to make your way through the mall, or in my case, run
You might
like
wonder,
a bat
what the
out of
fuck are
hell
these
because
lines?
it's a
And I don't know,
mall,
okay?
and there's hundreds
Tell
of
'em
walkers
boom.
inside. I got to the exit and bolted back to the car, but alas, the military had already moved
show-off
on.
lines.
Daryl was not able to meet up with
the
them
sake of
to
art.
be extracted, and thus the mission ends.
No other
Probably
reason.
one of the shortest missions in the game. The only place you can really head to is Polksville, a train yard where the military is routing supplies through.
You spotted? They were supposed to check in. Negative control. Circling the freight yard. Wait, there it is. Oh, damn. Yeah, there's a train. Smashed to hell. Off the rails. Looking for survivors. What about the cargo? We need those munitions for the evac.
You hear that? Trainload of munitions dumped at the freight yard. What do you think now?
Yeah, I think we're gonna make a stop.
Scout, come in. Scout, you copy?
Daddy, I'm here. Where are you? Daddy, are you okay?
You might notice whenever John Turner tuned into the radio, he was sounding very ill. We get to the train yard, and right as we're about to go find that crashed train, Scout gets cold feet and decides to stay behind. It would have been cool to have a survivor tag alongside Daryl inside an actual mission, but whatever. Daryl makes his way to a ladder and scales down it to the train tracks below.
Fell on my damn walkie. There. Good as new. Scout. Hey, Scout.
Yup, good as new. You make your way through the rail yard, and you can see that there are a ton of walkers beneath the bridge entering the yard. Most likely being drawn here due to the loud-ass noise I assume a train makes whenever it fucking derails. As you continue walking, you cannot help but notice that there is some assault rifle ammo in some spots. Hoping for the best case scenario, you speed around through some of the boxcars and occasionally taking care of the undead. Eventually, you find a clearing, and sure enough, here is where all of the military supplies are on that derailed train. But just then, this happens.
Spotted a lot one. Can you initiate rescue? Negative. Here comes the swarm. Poor bastard.
These people were so close to just dropping
Alright,
down.
I don't know if I should go to bed yet.
Helicopter blades kicked up so much.
It's pretty close thing. I mean, it's already easily.
Swarm of walkers away under the bridge. This causes them to fly away,
And I've
not willing to
done
take the
a
risk,
good bit
and
of progress.
also gives you no time to pick up any of the military supplies.
Botrix says,
Right as hope is
YouTube
lost,
chat check.
you hear a voice on the
querrieoh
radio.
says, hey.
You assume that he must have met up with Scout and took her radio and is now talking with you.
Try again, boy, but don't slow down. I'm waiting topside.
You cannot go back up that ladder that you fell down in the beginning. Merle guides you to a set of stairs that lead back up to your group. But once you make your way back up to your car, you see Scout, but no Merle.
No, I'm okay. Chopper kicked up some shit is all. Is a Merle up here?
No, just me. Your brother Merle? You talked to him down there?
Yeah, on the walkie. He said...
That walkie? It's broken. Must have happened when you fell. It doesn't even have batteries.
That's right. Just like in Season 2, Episode 5 of The Walking Dead show, Daryl hallucinated his brother being there with him. This one's a lot less physical, I might add, but it's still noteworthy to me. Unfortunately for Daryl, Merle in reality is still out there somewhere. He's running out of time to possibly encounter him again, as the next stop on the map is Palmetto Estates. This place still has ongoing evacuation procedures, but namely, Scout is going here to reunite with her father. But Daryl notices that John Turner sounded really sick on the radio, implying that he got bit.
Seeing your father's a bad idea. Saying goodbye on the radio is the best thing to do.
When I was 7, I wanted a dog in the worst way. But, my dad has always had allergies real bad. One day, he came home with a brand new puppy and a grin ear to ear. Even though my dad hates needles, he got a shot every week for 14 years and never said one word. Daryl, I'm half the person he is. And he
Say goodbye on the radio, woman. He might kill you.
You're not gonna evacuate, are you?
He's my dad. What would you do in my place?
With that being put into perspective, saying goodbye over the radio to a father like that is non-negotiable. So once we got to Palmetto Estates and
I'm done for the day.
She says
I've done more artwork than I've done in about a month.
Gift and to show her
I still can't draw on paper for shit, but I bought too much random shit, so I gotta learn. Wish me luck. Oh, look at it work for 3 days in a row.
On his face and hat that were not there before, and even though
I don't know if I'll
see a
stream.
bite mark on him, it's heavily implied that at some point, most likely when he was trying to leave Pemberton, he got bit. Considering how much he was coughing on the radio and how the wildfire virus works, but it's never been confirmed if he did get bit. He drives
but this video is so interesting as well. I'll probably finish listening to it as I go to sleep. Anyway, good night.
Although a cool little detail is the bandana Scout gives to